Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes are sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade. Sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. There's a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack's at Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proceed, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Hello. Hello, my friends, and happy Sunday. Happy Sunday fun day. It's Sunday fun day. Today is Sunday, November 3rd of 2024. It's daylight savings time here in the US, so we got an extra hour of sleep today, which is amazing. Amazing. I remember when my kids were little thinking that this was the longest day of the year, and it was, because when you had little kids, you have to entertain them for an extra hour and they still get up at their regular time, which is now an hour earlier. All right. You put your clocks back last week. What a wild trial this Richard Allen trial has been. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. I think there are now some supporters outside the courthouse. I saw some pictures of some people with signs, so that's interesting. This this guy that was in here this morning telling me that I should have my eyes done. Really? Wow. I don't know. I think for pushing 60, I think my eyes look pretty effing good, Robert Vale. So I don't want to. Whenever somebody says to you, I don't want to be rude, but you come from the entertainment biz, well, then you know that people that are on television have a whole team of hair and makeup people. It's just me. So thank you so much for your misogynistic backhanded compliments. If you think you're not going to get called on it, I mean, like, are you kidding? What's layered on? Under eye? I have under eye issues that I should see a plastic surgeon about? Speechless. Do you go on Emily Baker's stream and say things like that to her? Do you go on Andrea Burkhart's stream and say things like that to her? Do you go on Grizzly's stream and say things like that to her? Do you go on Nancy Grace and say things like that to her? Or I don't know, any other female creator? Do you go on to like Turtle Boys? Who are you, and where did you come from, and what gives you the right to even come into my house and insult me like that by calling it a backhanded compliment? It is by, yeah. Did he say that to Vinny? Who is this person? Yeah, it's a man. Oh, is it really a man? I don't even know. But don't think that you can come into my house and say things like that to me and then not get called down on it. What a misogynistic creep. Wow. Wow. Just wow. Yeah, I don't know how it is in Mommy's attic. You're in film. All right. Well, that's a fun way to start the day. So in any event, as we've been discussing for the past, I don't know, couple of days. Oh, that's who it might be. Yup. Yep, 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 yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Um, we've been discussing the third-party culprit theory in the Richard Allen case, and we've been discussing whether or not the judge is going to allow in the third-party culprit theory and any evidence of the Odinism / Norse paganism ritual. Nancy Grace blocked everyone on Twitter. She blocked everyone on Twitter. Yeah, I know you ladies in the chat will stick up for me. I don't know why men think that they can just say that to women or anything like that to women in a public forum. Oh, is that Depp's, Johnny Depp's friend, Venus, Robert Vale? Oh, that's probably where he got his screen name from. Yeah, there's something to be said for aging gracefully. I don't know. If you know, you know. If you think that, fillers are attractive, then ugh. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mama She, for the 10. I wasn't looking for compliments or super chats by saying that. I just feel like people who say shit like that need to be called out. Need to be called out. Because there's no ramifications ever for their behavior, ever. And that's why people like that exist. And that's why they go on to be miserable people. So there's that. Ugh. In true Judge Gull form, apparently this motion that was renewed twice during the trial was denied from the bench. I can't seem to find a copy of a written decision. And I know that so many of you have not been following this trial or this case from the beginning, which was nearly 8 years ago, and so many of you have. So for those of you who have, I appreciate your input, and I appreciate you filling in some of the blanks that I may not know about. But we also want to discuss all of the things and all of the other people that have been suspects in this case, and whether or not we think it's important that the jury know about them. Because as we've been discussing, this is like, I think, episode number 4 on this specific topic. There were so many other people that were investigated by law enforcement who had many more ties to not only the victims, but the area and certain beliefs and certain rituals that may or may not be connected with the crime scene. And so the original Frank's motion was filed in September of 2023, and it was 136 pages of detail of laying out all the other suspects that were initially, oh, you can't see Robert Vale? Oh, all right, then I guess it's up to me because he blocked all the mods. Oh, that's interesting. All right. Hold on. I guess it's up to me then to give Mr. Vale his pass to Block Island, unless somebody was able to handle it, like Sarah. I don't know. Um, 136 pages of common sense. Very important, I think, for the public to see. And so during the course of the trial, the judge has said, like, I'm going to deny it. The weirdest part about it is they painstakingly detail this in 136 pages. And she summarily denies it in like a one sentence of an order. It was insane. After this Frank's motion was filed, bringing up all of these other suspects that were investigated and quickly cleared by law enforcement, and all of these other theories and all of these other experts, and the 12-page Odin report, and things that the FBI had followed. Shortly after, and I believe it was shortly after, this was September of 2023, shortly after is when there was the leak of the crime scene photos. And somebody who used to be friends with one of the defense attorneys was in his office, walked into the conference room, took some photos with his phone of the crime scene photos, and leaked them to some podcasters on YouTube. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Murder Sheet. Was it anybody else that was leaked these photos other than the Murder Sheet couple, or the man and woman who do the Murder Sheet podcast. And in her infinite wisdom, she brought the defense attorneys back into chambers and threatened them and said, if you don't withdraw from the case, I'm going to embarrass you. And I'm going to read all of this on the record. This was like the only hearing that was ever made public that cameras were in the courtroom for. And it was reported on the news that they had withdrawn as counsel for Richard Allen, and he still wanted them as his attorneys. And then the person who leaked these photos, who went in there and took the pictures, signed an affidavit and said, they didn't know I did this. I did this. I'm real sorry. He signed an affidavit. And the person that he sent the photos to was a guy named Robert Forston, who very quickly after the photos were released, the story goes, was confronted by the lead investigator, the proctor of this case, Jerry Holman. And then this guy, Robert Forster, I'm just trying to get the proper, Forsman, hold on, let me just find my notes, took his own life. On October 11th of 2023, Fortson, Fortson. His name has pretty much been scrubbed. It's hard to find anything about him on the internet. It's bizarre. So just think about the timing of all this stuff, right? This motion is filed about all of these other third-party culprits, painstaking detail given about who these people are, why the defense thinks that they might actually be responsible for the murders of Abby and Liberty. Right after there's this leak of the photos, the judge pulls his attorneys off the case, Rosie and Baldwin. It goes all the way up to the Supreme Court of Indiana, is reversed, and Baldwin and Rosie are brought back onto the case to be Richard Allen's attorneys. Like, the whole sequence of things is very suspicious. And the judge said, if the door's open during trial, maybe I'll reconsider, maybe I'll reconsider. And the first time during the trial that this motion was renewed was in October 11th, I think. And that was when one of the witnesses testified that the placing of the branches on the victims' bodies was an undoing. An undoing is a term that is used in criminal profiling, and it often, let me just read you the actual definition. It's a symbolic reversal at homicide crime scenes, and it can go to consciousness of guilt, kind of like closing a victim's eyes, putting a towel over their head, folding their hands. In criminal profiling, the term refers to a pattern of behavior by which an offender tries to undo their crime symbolically. For example, by painting the face of a person killed by the perpetrator, covering up and decorating the corpse with flowers, personal belongings and jewelry, or folding the hands, imitating a laying out. So the argument by the defense was, we should be able to show another reason why there might have been these branches on top of the victim's body. And the other reason, as we set forth in our 136-page memo all the way back in September of 2023, is that we believe, just like the FBI believed, who were initially assigned to investigate this case, that this may have been some sort of Odinist or Norse Paganist ritual killing. The judge didn't rule on the decision. Didn't rule on that motion. So the defense filed a second motion. And that motion was filed maybe a week later during the trial. I think it was October 24th. I can't find my notes right now. And this time they said, okay, not only do we have this evidence that the state opened the door to regarding an undoing, and we should be able to present an alternative theory to the jury, but the forensic pathologist, Dr. Kaur, testified that there was possibly more than one weapon or more than one blade used in the murders. I think there was also some testimony by one of maybe it was even Holman, who said that he originally thought that it was more than one killer. And he stopped thinking that it was more than one killer when Richard Allen was arrested, because in his experience, if there's more than one killer, usually somebody snitches. And so therefore, I didn't think anymore that it was more than one killer. So the judge denied at the end of day, I believe it was at the end of day on Friday, the judge denied their motion to admit any of this third-party evidence or Odinist, paganism, Odinist theory without really any explanation, because I can't find a written decision on it. So I don't know what she said from the bench. I don't know if it was done at sidebar. I don't know what her reasoning is, because quite frankly, none of her decisions or orders really have any legal basis. There's no reasoning. There's no case law. It's just like the answer is no because I said so, which is really not the way that it's supposed to be. Let me just see. For those of you who like documents, there's an amazing website called All Eyes on Delphi, and it's got everything in there. All of the investigative materials, everything that you could possibly want. And it's constantly updated. So if she doesn't have it in here, it probably didn't happen yet. But what I want to do is talk about a little bit more, because we got halfway through this motion. Things that I think that the jury should hear about. And I'm going to pull up the receipts for you, because a lot of people like receipts. A lot of people seem to think out there that anybody who thinks that somebody may not be guilty of a crime, or anybody who thinks that the state's not proving their case beyond a reasonable doubt, is a conspiracy theorist for some reason. I have no idea why, but whatever. That's just the way people think. And what I found interesting also is that as we're listening in court, or listening to people who are in court tell us about the confessions that were made, the timing of these confessions lines up a lot with what was going on and who was guarding him in the prison. So let's pull up that part first. It's at the very end of the Franks motion. Somebody said the other day, can I put up on the screen what date these motions are from? This motion is from September. This is the original Franks motion from September. I think it's September 23rd, 2023. Filed by the defense, but it's got the most detail in it, which is why I like to use it, because everything else has just been really a renewal of this motion. And then we'll talk about, a lot of you wanted to talk about Andrea's motion that she filed in the Indiana Supreme Court, of the action that she filed for a writ of mandamus to try and get the judge to release audio transcripts and exhibits to not just the media, but to the members of the public who are in the courtroom who want to see things. She's treating the media better than she's treating other attorneys that are watching in the courtroom that happen to be law tubers. So let's take a look. This goes to page, what page is this? 118 of this original Frank's motion. And this has to do with Odinists in Westville. And whether you believe this theory or not, it's more about, is it plausible? Is it possible? Should the jury learn about this as an alternative theory to explain what happened here? Should the defendant be allowed to put forth a defense of his choosing? That's right, Julia. Research before voting for judicial, right? We vote for judges here in New York. Do you vote for judges where you are? You should research them. Absolutely. Thanks for being here for 6 months. Thanks, Marissa, for becoming a member. Some guy with cancer. Hello. Judge Gull's reasoning is, I like the prosecutor and I don't like the defense, so denied. No, I'm not joking. It kind of, that's what people think. A lot of people think that can do anything mid-trial if you feel the judge is biased. You can just keep preserving your objections for the record, preserving the record for an appeal. They've been doing a good job of that. Okay, so this takes us back to that original motion, and it's going to talk about who's been guarding or who was guarding the defendant, Richard Allen, during his pretrial incarceration at Westville Correctional Facility, which is a prison, a maximum security prison. If you've been watching any of the other coverage from any of the other YouTubers who are in the courtroom, you know, and we've talked about it too, that this man was confined to a maximum security prison. He was in solitary confinement for 13 months with the lights on 24 hours a day. And it is just not the way pretrial detainees are supposed to be held. They're supposed to be held in county lockup. This was horrific, deplorable, the conditions that he was kept in. Yesterday, the jury saw some video, some camcorder video of Richard Allen being led around the prison. They were called the transport videos, I think. Not the in the cell videos, but the transport videos of him being brought around, because he was videotaped 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The lights were on. Kind of like, I don't know, cruel and inhuman treatment. Some might say torture, like he's been being treated like a prisoner of war. He was held in a place for 13 months that actual inmates of the Westville Correctional Facility would be only held in for 30 days at the longest. And it's revolting. And listening to Andrea and Bob Mata describe the looks on the jurors' faces when they were watching these videos yesterday. If you haven't watched either one of them, do it. Revolting. Apparently, the videos were so graphic and disturbing that they were not shown to the gallery. They were only shown to the jury. Also because he may have been naked in some of the videos. Anybody who thinks that this is the way pretrial detainees should be held in the United States of America before a conviction really need to give this a harder look. I can't understand anybody who's defending this. Really can't. It's shocking, it's horrific, and it could be any one of you or anybody in your family. So this is part 4 of that Frank's motion. It's called Odinists in Westville. After his arrest, Richard Allen was forced to be housed in Westville Correctional Facility based on a safekeeping order. On April 3rd of 2023, two of the transport guards walking Richard to and from his visit prominently displayed multiple patches on their Department of Corrections uniform. Footnote 170. At that time, April 3rd of 2023, the defense was fully aware of the Odinite involvement in the murders, but law enforcement would likely not have known that the defense was aware of the Odinite involvement, which could explain why they felt comfortable wearing the patches. Those of you who have been watching the trial coverage, what does that date represent to you? April 3rd of 2023. Wasn't that the day of the first alleged confession, or around that time? I think it was. The top patch in Odin We Trust was displayed under their embroidered name tags on the right side of their Department of Corrections hereinafter DOC uniform shirt. On the left side of their DOC uniform shirt were two patches. The lower of the two patches consisted of a partial American flag and interlocking triangles. The interlocking triangles is a common symbol for those involved in the pagan Odinite religion. 171. An undercover state trooper who's familiar with hate groups, runes, and Odinisms stated that interlocking triangles are associated with the Odinist belief systems, and that is contained in the deposition of undercover state trooper. Also find attached a photograph of interlocking triangles to which the undercover trooper was referring to. This photograph is marked as Exhibit 116. Above this American flag interlocking triangle patch was a patch that proclaimed, "I hate people." Below are images of those patches, in spite of the fact that for over 5 months, from November of 2022 to April of 2023, Richard Allen's defense team has been able to bring in their phones when visiting Richard Allen. After Richard's defense team showed photographs of a decrepit Richard Allen at Westville, Warden Gallipo apparently issued an order that Richard's defense team were no longer allowed to bring in their phones. Because Richard's defense team were no longer able to bring in their phones, the defense team was not able to take photographs or video of these patches after April 3rd of 2023. Therefore, the defense is providing affidavits from members of Richard Allen's defense team that viewed these patches on multiple occasions after April 3rd of 2023. Here are the patches worn by the guards. The images below of the patches worn by Sergeant Robinson and Jones were found on Etsy. These patches can be purchased off Etsy. And here they are. If you're not looking at your screen, you might want to look at your screen just for the visual of what these patches look like that were on the guards' uniforms. And they're not supposed to have any other patches on their uniforms other than the patches that belong with the uniform, but there's that. Here's the "I hate people" patch. The first time that Richard's defense team noticed Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson and the patches shown above that they wore on their DOC uniform was on April 3rd of 2023. This also coincides with the time frame that Richard Allen's mental health began a steep decline. From that point forward, April 3rd of 2023, these two guards, Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones, seemed inseparable from Richard Allen. April 3rd of 2023. And this is according to Max Baker's affidavit. Odinite correction officers Robinson and Jones would walk Richard Allen to and from his attorney's visits, as well as on one occasion when Richard visited with his wife, always wearing the embroidered patches. For a period, Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones were also videotaping Richard Allen and his interactions with his attorneys. This ended only upon complaint by Richard Allen's attorneys after several visits. Additionally, Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones were always close enough to Richard to be assured that Richard did not feel comfortable talking to his attorneys or his wife without knowing that these Odinite guards were within earshot of anything that he would tell his lawyers or his wife. If this is what they were doing when his attorneys were present, What do you think was going on when nobody was looking? His wife was only allowed to visit him twice in that 13-month period. And the attorney's visits were the things that were also recorded with this handheld camcorder. You know, Mary, I don't think they did see them taping the lawyers yesterday because there was one reporter in there, one reporter who works for a local Indiana paper. Happens to be the same reporter that gave Ali Mata a talking to when Ali Mata went into the well to try and look at the exhibits by calling her out to the judge, like, she's not part of the media. She's not part of the media. And this reporter apparently sat all the way on the end, turned around, looked at the lawyer's laptop. I think it was Rosie who was working the laptop, and was able to describe some of the video in an article that she put in her paper. She didn't describe any video with his attorneys, but it was horrific video of Richard. Yeah, the snitch. Yep. Yep, same one. Julia says, I think Kathy's visits were after the confessions. Maybe. I mean, this is like a horror movie. If you didn't know any better, you would think that this is made up. You would write this script and people would be like, yeah, no, that's just too unrealistic. It's too unrealistic. Nobody's going to believe this. Additionally, Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones were always close enough to Richard to be assured that Richard did not feel comfortable talking to his attorneys or his wife without knowing that these Odinite guards were within earshot of anything he would tell his lawyers or wife. Max Baker and Matt Hoffman have both been a part of Richard Allen's defense team since December of 2022 and have met with Richard on several occasions. Paragraph 10 of Max Baker's affidavit provides insight into some of what was going on at Westville with the Odinist guards, Jones and Robinson. During one memorable visit on May 4th of 2023, myself, Attorney Baldwin, and Attorney Rosie met with Richard Allen to discuss matters involving the case. At this time, Richard Allen was in a mental and physical state of deterioration and was nearly non-communicative. During the visit, Richard Allen repeatedly asked whether or not his wife was okay and if his family was okay. What does that indicate to you? Perhaps they were being threatened? Do you remember the initial interrogation videos that they showed of Richard Allen from October of 2022, almost 6 years post the killings, wherein they figured out quite quickly that his trigger was his family? And when they started talking about his wife, got a bit angry. They knew that was his trigger. He claimed on a couple of occasions that, quote, they were going to kill him, end quote. When asked who he was referring to as they, Richard Allen responded by saying, the guys with the Odin patches. Up to this point in the legal process, Richard Allen's defense team had never mentioned Odinites or Odinism to Richard Allen, either directly or indirectly. The first time I'm aware of any mention of Odinite involvement to Richard Allen was during a visit on August 25th of 2023, when Kathy Allen attended and a discussion occurred between attorney and client regarding ties to the crime scene. You know who else was talking to Richard Allen around that time or before that, before his attorneys told him about the Odinite involvement? Dr. Monica Walla, a self-proclaimed fan of the Delphi case, who had been following the case for years, who had been in YouTube and possibly Reddit chats about it, who knew a lot of information about the case that may or may not have been known by other people, like as such, the theory about the white van. And wasn't she meeting with him for a period of time every day around this time? May 4th, 2023, April 2023. Weren't a lot of these 61 confessions in her notes? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I have not been able to watch every single second of coverage. And she admitted that she was talking to him about the case. She was telling him what people were saying online. That's right, Kate. She was. Anybody else find that curious? Yeah, Debbie Wright. What's up with him being seen every single day? Never heard of that. Missy's Angels, the white van was first mentioned in June of 2017. That was the smoking gun. That was the thing that the state says nobody would know that except for the killer, except for everybody on Reddit from June of 2017 forward. And Richard Allen never said white van in his alleged confession. He just said a van came and scared me, and so I ran off. Had to finish and go. Right? At an August 10th, 2023 deposition, the defense finally revealed to Jerry Holman, one of the main investigators on this case, that if the defense knew that the evidence exposed the high likelihood that the Odinites committed these murders by laying out the evidence right in front of Holman. Up until that time, the defense had strategically played dumb about possessing any knowledge of the Odinite involvement. This strategy was in place for many reasons. However, the defense finally revealed its knowledge to Jerry Holman on August 10th of 2023. 1 week later, during their first attorney visit since that August 10th, 2023 deposition, Sergeant Robinson, as usual, dropped Rick off at the attorney meeting. Sergeant Jones was absent on this visit. However, something else was also different on this visit. Notably missing from Sergeant Robinson's uniform were the Odinite patches that Richard's defense team had taken note of on every attorney visit ever since April 3rd of 2023. Perhaps not so coincidentally, after Jerry Holman became aware of the defense team's knowledge of the Odinite involvement in the murders, magically those patches were removed from Robinson's uniform, leaving blank spots where the patches used to be displayed on the very next attorney visit. That's according to Max Baker's affidavit. The defense would remind the court that also, perhaps not so coincidentally, Tony Liggett was the only person that refused to support the transport of Richard Allen out of Westville when other options like Cass County were available. Liggett cited as his sole reason for rejecting Richard Allen being moved from Westville, 76 miles away, to Cass County, Logansport, is that he, Liggett, would have difficulty transporting Richard Allen to Delphi from Logansport for hearings and trial, a distance of less than 20 miles. That's from Liggett's deposition. Certainly, state police were available to assist in transport if Carroll County could not. Yet, Liggett refused to agree to the transport, leaving Richard Allen in Westville guarded by Odinites. When factoring everything contained in this memorandum, Liggett's objection to moving Richard Allen to Cass County over transportation concerns is troubling, especially when the patches were moved after the depositions. Also filed contemporaneously with the Franks motion and memorandum is the defense's emergency request to transport Richard Allen out of Westville to the Cass County Jail, despite Tony Liggett's objection to same, as the defense has legitimate concerns of Richard's safety once this motion and memorandum are filed. Beyond Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson wearing in Odin We Trust patches, what else links them to Odinism? Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson's relationship with Odinism went beyond the patches that they each proudly displayed while transporting Richard Allen to and from his attorney's visits. Sergeant Robinson. A lot of people have pointed out, and this must have been afterwards, that one of them got the patch or some other symbolism or symbology about Odinism tattooed on his face. I don't know if that's true or which guard that was, but I find it curious. Sergeant Robinson got a tattoo, yeah. On his Facebook page, Sergeant Robinson does not hide his devotion to Odinism. On June 25th of 2023, Robinson posted a photo of what the defense would call an altar featuring horns, antlers, and Thor's hammer, and a dish sitting atop some type of animal fur with various runes decorating the outer edges of the dish. All of these items were placed on what appears to be a circular wooden platter. 177. These are attached as exhibits which have been sealed by the court. It appears that Sergeant Jones liked Sergeant Robinson's Odin altar post. Sergeant Robinson's altar to Odin is similar to an altar to Odin posted by Brad Holder, who you may or may not recall was the father of Abby's boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. As stated by Max Baker in his affidavit, Sergeant Robinson was involved in transporting Richard Allen to most, if not all, of his attorney's visits. Sergeant Robinson always wore his Odin patches. However, that changed following Holman's contentious August 10th of 2023 deposition. In that deposition, which has been attached and provided to the court as an exhibit, about 2/3 of the way through the deposition, Holman began getting called out by the defense for Unified Command's incompetent handling of the Odin aspect of the investigation. It was also at that point in the deposition that the defense began asking critical questions concerning the way that Unified Command handled the investigation of Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Johnny Messer, and Elvis Fields. You will note that nowhere in that deposition did the defense reveal to Holman that the defense, was aware that Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones were wearing the "In Odin We Trust" patches. Attorney Rosie and defense team member Max Baker visited Richard Allen on August 17th of 2023, only 7 days after the contentious deposition with Holman, in which it became obvious that the defense was fully aware of the strong evidence that Odinists committed the murders. At this August 17th of 2017 visitation, well, that can't be right. It can't be 2017. It has to be 2023. At this August 17th of 2023 visitation, now I lost my place. As Max Baker states in his affidavit, Sergeant Robinson no longer was wearing the patch. The defense team has no direct knowledge as to whether Jerry Holman or anyone from Unified Command contacted Sergeant Robinson or anyone else from Westville to alert them that Rick's defense team was fully aware that evidence supported Odinists being involved in the murders. However, it is certainly a curiosity that deserves attention and consideration. As Max Baker also describes in his affidavit, Sergeant Robinson was always within a few feet of Richard Allen during Richard's meeting with his wife, Kathy. The 2 visits that Richard had with his wife were without the hustle and bustle and noise of other inmates during their visitation. While Warden Gallipo may claim that Westville was doing Richard a favor by allowing him privacy with his wife, the defense views it differently. With no other inmates in the room was completely quiet. Sergeant Robinson could hear everything that Richard told his wife. Certainly, Robinson and Jones stood close enough to Richard to intimidate Richard from talking openly and honestly to his wife about what was going on in Westville. Additionally, in their combined 50-plus years of practice in criminal defense, attorneys Baldwin and Rosie have never had their purported confidential attorney visits videotaped with a handheld camcorder. Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson, beginning April 3rd of 2023, began videotaping Richard Allen's interactions with his attorneys. Particularly outrageous was the fact that Richard Allen was required to face the camcorder from about 10 feet away through a glass. This means that Richard's mouth was being videotaped. This means that Richard was not able to talk freely with his attorneys and say things like, "They are stating that if I don't tell my wife that I'm guilty, then they said they're going to harm my wife." If Richard were to say anything like that, it would be on video. Remember, Richard Allen continuously asked his defense team if his wife was okay and if his family was okay. The defense has obtained video from the prison. One of the videos that we obtained show the aftermath of something that happened to Richard Allen. Find attached a still shot of Richard Allen taken from a video that Westville produced. The defense does not have the exact date, but the video indicates that the video was taken between May 26th and May 30th. The still shot is attached to this memorandum and filed as Exhibit 121. The defense is not sure exactly what happened to Richard Allen that caused him to look the way depicted in the still shot. Whether it was self-harm or something else, the fact that Richard is being watched by Odinites and the evidence strongly supports Odinite involvement in the murders causes great concerns for the defense in terms of Rick's safety. Additionally, in Matt Hoffman's, don't confuse him with Jerry Holman. In Matt Hoffman's affidavit, you will find that at the last hearing on June 15th of 2023, Rick was constantly pleading with the guards not to shock him. Please don't shock me. Please don't shock me. Please don't shock me. I don't think any of that video has come in yet. They're going to see more video tomorrow. Matt Hoffman indicated that Rick made that comment in front of multiple guards and in front of multiple members of Rick's defense team. Now to Sergeant Jones. Sergeant Jones's Facebook posts reveal his ties to Odinism. Find attached an image taken from Sergeant Jones' Facebook page marked as Exhibit 122. As you can see, the interlocking triangles that appear on Sergeant Jones' patch also appear in this photo. You will also notice a rune in the lower left-hand corner of the photo. It's hard to see because it's in black. Also remember that Sergeant Jones liked Sergeant Robinson's altar to Odin. The defense would request the court to review Max Baker's affidavit to learn of Sergeant Jones' involvement in guarding Richard Allen. It is nearly identical to Sergeant Robinson's involvement. Here's the conclusion of Part 4. They don't teach you in law school what to do when your client who's accused of murder is being guarded by members of a religious cult whose members evidence strongly supports were the actual murderers. Yet that is where we are. At some point in time, coincidences cease to be coincidences. The fact that Liggett did not want Richard Allen to be removed from Westville purportedly over transportation issues is curious. The fact that Odinites are guarding Richard is very concerning, or at the very least curious, considering the evidence discussed in this memorandum. The fact that Sergeant Robinson stopped wearing his "In Odin We Trust" patches within days of Jerry Holman and the Unified Command learning that the defense was fully aware of the evidence linking Odinists to the crime scene, and that the Uniform Command had avoided investigating Odinists is curious. Footnote 183, I think that's 183. Again, the defense is not claiming that Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson are involved in the murders, just that they are Odinites, members of the same religious cult that the evidence strongly supports were involved in the murders of Abby and Libby. Again, the court must determine whether Liggett acted intentionally or recklessly when he omitted or lied about information when he drafted the affidavit for the search warrant. The defense would ask the court to consider that Liggett, objecting to Richard Allen's transfer to Cass County over transportation issues, is evidence of intentionality in that Liggett wanted Allen to remain in Westville, guarded by Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones and any other Odinite that the defense of whom the defense has not learned works at Westville. Go to the chat for a minute. Hi, JP. No need to interrupt for my super chat. Thank you for the super chat, but your eyes are gorgeous, and I've been meaning to ask you about your mascara because it's always perfect. I have an Amazon link below the stream that has a list of makeup because a lot of people ask me about its Benefit mascara. It's the best. It's the best because it has a brush that is like, it for some reason it just never clumps, and it never it doesn't leave like those little strings like some brushes do, you know? It's like made out of some sort of, I don't know, polymer or something. It's the best. Benefit. Thanks for asking. Loud Mouse, thanks for the 10. I thought Karen was getting a raw deal, and along comes Gull and says, hold my beer, Bev. Yeah, kinda, right? This is like Karen Reed on steroids. It's like Karen Reed on steroids, in my opinion. Let's go back now. Yes, Melanie says, but they're not allowed to play video with the volume up, so no one can hear Richard Allen say anything like, please don't shock me. Right. And I think, was there reasoning for that? Because Richard Allen would have to take the stand to authenticate the tape? I don't know. But initially the tapes were not allowed in. They tried to introduce them the day before. And then the judge said, well, you can't show the dates when these tapes are from, so I'm not letting them in. And meanwhile, they're tapes that were turned over by the state to the defense. So then they did a lot of work behind the scenes overnight, and they were able to get the tapes in. Let's go back a little bit to the third-party culprit stuff that the jury is not going to hear about. And all of these people who were connected to the scene, to this offshoot of Odinism or Norse pagan ritualism, Vinlanders, they're called. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything. However, these tips were investigated by the FBI. These people were investigated by the FBI. And then all of a sudden, their recorded interviews disappeared. They were taped over. And the state admits that they were taped over. Is it more than a coincidence? At what point does it become no longer a coincidence? Yeah. Prison gangs. So let's go back to the document and the argument. And I may paraphrase some of it because there's a lot. So very early on, multiple tipsters contacted law enforcement via the tip line requesting that Brad Holder be investigated as a suspect, but Liggett and Unified Command quickly cleared Holder as a suspect despite mounting evidence linking Holder to Abby Williams and the crime scene. They go on to say that within days of the girl's ritualistic sacrifice, law enforcement started receiving tips from citizens who thought Brad Holder was possibly involved in the murder. Perhaps. Here's a tip that was from February 16th of 2017. The narrative on the report said, father of Logan Holder, ex-boyfriend of Libby, social media shows him a member of Vinlanders, posts of half-dead women, and fascination with Gothic figures and symbols out of tree branches. This tip intake was shown as being evaluated by Delphi investigators only 10 minutes later. The evaluator of that intake concluded that this tip required a lead. 2 days later, Tony Liggett himself at that time approved the lead, therefore requiring further action be taken on that lead. However, only 13 days later, Liggett would change his mind as to the importance of Brad Holder as a suspect. On March 1st of 2017, another report was reviewed by Liggett. That was a local police report that was almost a word-for-word regurgitation of an FBI report discussed below. At the end of that document, Liggett concluded that, quote, no leads required, end quote. This means that after reviewing the contents of that document, Liggett was not interested in following up on Brad Holder as a lead. On February 17th, 2017, the FBI interviewed Holder at the Delphi Police Department. The turnaround on interviewing Brad Holder was very quick, as only 3 days had passed since the girls were found murdered. Attached is an exhibit, which is the FBI report that memorialized that interview. According to the report, the below is an interview summary. It is not intended to be a verbatim account and does not memorialize all statements made during the interview. Communications by the parties in the interview room were electronically recorded. The recording captures the actual words spoken. As stated earlier, after over 9 months, Rick's defense team still does not possess this electronically recorded interview. We have some hijackers in the chat. They're hijacking the topic. Carly Gregg did murder her mom. I don't disagree with you. So if you think you're going to derelict, if you think you're coming in here to hijack the chat, Carly Gregg murdered her mom. We know that. I mean, you're not telling us something we don't know. Thanks for joining, though. Hit the thumbs up on your way out. Otherwise, it would attach a copy of the recording for the court to review. Presumably, this electronically recorded interview still sits in the Delphi police station or possibly the prosecutor's office, as the defense learned on September 11th that more discovery is ready to be picked up. Also, in this document, Holder told Special Agent Robert Pohl and Hammond Police Sergeant Christopher Goatee the following. Brad Holder stated that his son Logan, 16 years old, was a friend of Abby. Well, there we go. I was wondering how old Logan was, and he was 16. On Monday, the 13th, Holder received a text from the Delphi Police Department asking him, Holder, to call back. Holder called the officer back and had a short conversation stating that he had never met the girls. The state police asked if they could examine Logan Holder's phone, and while they were collecting the phone, they informed Logan and Brad that the girls were deceased. (106) Richard's defense team has never been provided with any electronic data taken from Logan's phone, nor any report of what was contained on Logan's phone. Holder stated that he visited Delphi every weekend to hang out with his friend Patrick Westfall. Westfall lived in Delphi and was a friend of Holder in the Army. Holder and Westfall served in Afghanistan together. When Holder would go to Westfall's house, he would bring his son Logan. Logan and Westfall's son would generally go to Canal Park and play basketball. Holder believed that this is when Logan would contact Abby. Holder never actually met Abby himself, and he believed that Logan only actually met her one time as they attended different schools. Well, how could they be boyfriend and girlfriend if they only met one time? I don't know, but he's then going to contradict himself later in another statement. Footnote 107, back up here, says, earlier in this memorandum, it was learned that as of February 17th, 2017, Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall were no longer friends because of something that had just occurred in a pagan ritual in the woods by the river. It is interesting to note that in this interview, Brad Holder did not let the FBI agents know that he and Patrick Westfall were no longer friends or the reason why they were no longer friends. I submit to you, whether you believe this or not, shouldn't the jury be allowed to hear about it? There are witnesses to this. We've discussed them. Yes, yes. Thank you, Broken Gothal. You may have brought this to my attention initially. The pagan festival of Lupercalia was celebrated in mid-February, maybe the origin of Valentine's Day. That is true. Holder knew Logan to communicate with her on the internet with his phone. Holder provided Westfall's phone number as this. He also stated that Westfall suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder and is on disability. Okay, also worth noting, Holder tells them right away that Logan communicates with Abby on the internet with his phone. Abby's device was never searched, right? Only Libby's device was searched. Abby didn't have a phone with her. But why wasn't her tablet at home searched? Why wasn't her laptop searched? Why wasn't anything else searched? So her social media, the ways that she communicated with people such as like this son of a guy who's a known Vinlander. Holder continued to state that he and Westfall started a tribe of Asatru followers. Asatru was described as a warrior religion popular with members of the military. Holder, Westfall, and Westfall's girlfriend, Rachel Miller, host Asatru meetings every Sunday at Westfall's house. Holder stated that there are only 5 to 6 regular members that attend. Holder was asked where he was on Monday. He stated that he was at work driving machinery at Waste Management in Buffalo, Indiana, until he clocked out sometime between 2 and 4 p.m. After work, he went to the gym. Workout anytime in Logansport. Again, this very FBI report was later converted into a document that was reviewed by Tony Liggett. Upon reviewing this document, Tony Liggett concluded that no leads were required. In his August 8th of 2023 deposition, Tony Liggett explained the different phrases used and concerning how law enforcement dealt with tips. In the deposition, Liggett could not remember the exact language he used to describe the situation when there was nothing more that could be done with the tip, meaning the tip was at a dead end. In the deposition, Liggett said that he believed the phrase used by law enforcement officers in reports to denote when essentially there was nothing left to do with the tip, i.e., a dead end, was no further leads. In his deposition, Liggett also differentiated between the meaning of no further leads and another phrase that might appear on reports, fully covered. According to Liggett, no further leads meant that there was just nothing to this to start with. Fully covered means someone did something with it and it was completed. When pressed as to what those two phrases, no further leads and fully covered, meant in practical terms of whether there would be an expectation of future investigation related to the subject of the tip, Liggett said that both of those phrases meant that law enforcement had completed the work on the tip. In other words, the tip was dead. It's obvious between Liggett's deposition and the language Liggett used in the report, no leads required, that Liggett had concluded that there was no further investigation needed of Brad Holder at that time because, as he said in his deposition, there had been nothing there from the beginning that needed investigating concerning Holder, meaning no more work to be done, no more investigation to be conducted concerning Brad Holder. Next section is called "Nothing to See Here." Holder had an alibi. Please look at the next subject. I think in our last stream we went over Holder's alleged alibi at length, so we may skip through some of this. Talks about Liggett gave up on investigating Brad Holder because of his purported alibi on March 1st of 2017, which is a little over 2 weeks. Well, less than 2 weeks, because February only has 28 days. About 2 weeks post-murders. At that time the decision was made, it was known that Brad Holder was a proud Odinite who loved to post about the pagan religion of which he was a part. It was also known that he used sticks and tree branches to form patterns similar to those left behind at the crime scene. And then they show some of those images that we looked at last time on his Facebook pages. posted mostly before Abby and Libby's murder. Law enforcement also knew Brad Holder was spending his weekends in Delphi with his friend Patrick Westfall. It was also known that Brad Holder's son Logan had some sort of dating relationship with Abby. This all seems like the type of information that would absolutely require an intense and continued investigation into Brad Holder and not a no further leads tag from Liggett. It would be crazy to think that at that early stage of the investigation, with all that information that was already known by Liggett, that he would assign the designation of no further leads, ending the investigation of Brad Holder only 15 days after the girls were found brutally murdered at a very bizarre crime scene. Then they give him the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps Liggett typing in no leads required was simply a typographical error or a clerical error or an unfortunate oversight. Perhaps it was a one-off circumstance. However, other reports demonstrate that Liggett did not commit a typographical error when he typed no leads required into the March 1st, 2017 report. It was intentional or reckless. For example, another tip had been supplied to law enforcement on March 9th of 2017. That was after he was already cleared. In this report, the tipster told law enforcement that she had checked out Brad Holder and found him to be a dark and scary person through some of his postings on Facebook. You want to check him out. Again, this is another example of a citizen who knows nothing about the secretive crime scene, unlike law enforcement who knew that sticks and tree branches were placed on the girls. Yet even without knowledge of the crime scene, this tipster, like many others, recognized that Brad Holder's Facebook page was dark and disturbing and required further inspection and investigation, especially knowing that Brad's son was dating Abby Williams. As this tipster proclaimed to law enforcement about Brad Holder, you want to check him out. Except the problem was that Tony Liggett did not want to check Brad Holder out. Footnote 111 says, after Richard Allen was arrested, defense counsel even received a tip from as far away as Australia from a gentleman named Joe Luis who thought the defense should focus on Brad Holder based upon a review of Holder's public Facebook posts. Unified Command was based only a few miles from the murder site and thought Brad Holder was not even a suspect, yet a man 9,000 miles away was able to figure out the importance of focusing on Brad Holder. And so on, and so on. March 7th, the tips kept coming in. Tips kept coming in about Brad Holder, and they just kept saying no, because the Liggett's already cleared him. What say you? Did anyone other than local law enforcement clear Brad Holder as a suspect early on? Yes. On March 19th of 2017, another tip came in that believed Brad Holder sounded like the man on the famous audio released by law enforcement. This time, it was FBI agent Michael Peasley following the lead of Liggett, which indicated at the bottom of that report that Holder had been cleared. On April 14th, 2017, another tip came in, claiming that Brad Holder had changed his appearance following the girls' murders. Tipster further indicated that he even attended the girls' funerals. Or funeral. And that although he typically did not wear glasses, he was wearing glasses at the funeral. Although other tip sheet reports exist that tell a similar story, the defense offers one last tip report related to Brad Holder. On August 14th, a woman contacted police. August 14th of 2017. The report memorialized the tip as follows. Two women posted to a Facebook group that Brad Holder was responsible for the homicides. The tipster saw this post and told the police the contents of that post. The tipster went on to summarize what she read. Holder is a pagan, murdered the girls as sacrifices, and left an F on the victims' bodies. Holden's son Logan is Abigail's ex-boyfriend. Obviously, the F left at the crime scene was not left on the girls' bodies, but rather on the tree, painted using Libby's blood. However, how would this information concerning the letter F have even been known for anyone to talk about? Curious person might ask, could it be that someone who participated in the murders had talked about the crime scene with someone who then talked to someone else, slightly mixing up the fact that the story passed from person to person, as the story passed from person to person? Law enforcement should have viewed this tip as something extraordinarily important because it was a tip that provided secretive information about the crime scene not known by the public. This information about an F being left at the scene was not only unavailable to the public, but there's no evidence that it was being discussed on the internet. This tipster could have been interviewed. Facebook group members could have been interviewed, and etc. They delineate all the things that could have, should have, would have been done. Instead, what happened? Any potential investigation stemming from this potentially game-changing information of someone's knowledge of the letter F being involved in the crime scene ended before it even began. The defense has marked an unredacted copy of this report. The law enforcement officer that initially evaluated the tip must have understood the importance of mentioning the letter F because conduct follow-up was the request made. However, the next person in the chain, Roland Purdy, upon reviewing the tip, simply followed the previous lead of Liggett and Hammond. When it came to possibly further investigation of the tip generated from that document, Roland Purdy called Brad Holder, quote, fully covered, end quote, i.e. nothing further to do. Who were these people that somehow knew about the F at the crime scene, and how did they obtain that information? The world will never know, because Trooper Purdy followed Liggett's and Hammond's lead and buried that tip by claiming that Brad Holder had been cleared as a suspect. To conclude this section on the evidence of Brad Holder's involvement, Richard Allen's defense team would tell the court that Liggett was aware of the many ways detailed in this memo in which Holder was tied into the Delphi murders. Yet despite this evidence linking Brad Holder to the crime, this is the dialogue between Liggett, who was answering defense counsel's question at Liggett's August 8th, 2023 deposition concerning what Liggett claims his knowledge of Brad Holder was. Okay, here's the question. Okay, so Brad Holder then. So was there any other reason that Brad Holder was a suspect or at least a person of interest other than the fact that his son Logan dated Abby? Liggett. I'm sure there was, but I don't recall without reviewing his information. Question. Nothing stands out to you as you sit there about why Brad Holder might have been a suspect? Answer. No. Question. Other than the connection with his son and Abby, is that right? Answer. Correct. Liggett was on the Unified Command. Liggett was heavily involved in the investigation of the murders. To feign ignorance like that concerning the Brad Holder component of the investigation is astounding. Astounding. Unified Command was fully aware of the Murphy-Ferenczi clique investigation tying Johnny Messer and Elvis Fields to Brad Holder. In the deposition, Liggett had an opportunity to open up and say something like, Brad Holder was heavily investigated. There was even a thought that he was tied into some guys down in Rushville. If you don't have that evidence yet, let me get that to you. In the end, we didn't think it added up. Instead, Liggett took the bait and obviously tried to steer the defense away from the Brad Holder evidence, linking Holder to both the crime scene and to the Rushville crew. With Liggett's answer here, it is not surprising at all, zero, that Rick's defense team did not receive important discovery concerning the Rushville investigation, particularly Click's April 28th, 2023 certified letter to McLeland until September 8th of 2023. Again, McLeland only provided this discovery after Liggett and the prosecution realized that the defense was fully aware of the Rushville connections, and it was only a matter of time before we would learn of that non-discovered exculpatory evidence. And then they go on to say that all of this was concealed to Judge Diener. And had Judge Diener known any of this, he would not or should not have signed the warrant. Take a look at something else here with you. Let's go to the chat first for thoughts, concerns, questions. Mandy, thanks for becoming a member. Neen Mac, thanks for being a member for 2 months. Mandy Stone, thank you, Mandy, for tuning in. Richard Allen's confessions are worthless. They tortured that man. I think the jury is seeing videos of some evidence of that. Thanks for being a member, Mandy, for 3 months. Who says no cameras in court? No wonder. I think there's a sign. Somebody has a sign outside of court, right? No cameras, no wonder. Pop it. It's amazing that no DNA of anybody was found. Just baffling. Yep. Right. Broken goth doll. Imagine being a juror coming up with a guilty verdict, then seeing all this information afterwards. Light the way says Holder was hanging around law enforcement whilst things were going down with Richard Allen at the police station. Friends? Friends in high places? I don't know. I'm sure some of the locals know a lot better than I do. SD, that's why Judge Diener backed out of this case. He knew it was dirty. Young Black economist, hi. Big issue with guards infiltrated by this group, which is even more prominent in prison, where you get free time to worship if you say religious. So gangs with religious undertones have benefits, in my opinion. Yes. Somebody pointed this out, and I'm not sure exactly the source of it, so I'm not going to pull it up for you, but there is some evidence. There may be some evidence. I can't verify the truth or veracity of it, but that on the Indiana Bureau of Prisons holiday list, there are a Satru/Odinist holidays listed that you may request time off for. And also Wiccan holidays that you may request time off for. That is not something that happens in New York, but that only leads me to believe that there may be many, many followers of these religions in the area. Point something else out to you. Mm-hmm. Odin's holiday list. Yeah, yes. Yeah, oh, yes, I have it. I'll show you, because I can't, I don't know that it's absolutely true, but somebody posted it somewhere and I found it. There's also some other holiday called hold on. It's like a feast that happens every February, something of the plow. Hold on. I fell into the rabbit hole on this. Call me Alice. Oh, I think it was on Reddit. All right, I'll pull it up in a bit. Remind me. Yeah. Melanie Schuyler, thanks for being a member for a month. Judge Gull, take my word for it. Nothing to see here. Move along. Yep. Here we go. You can't make this up. You really can't. So the defendant made a motion to dismiss for destroying exculpatory evidence, and this was filed February of 2024. Pull this up for a second, and you're going to hear from the state's mouth what happened with those early interviews, because it's in their motion papers. So this is not rumor or speculation. See here, filed February 22nd of 2022. I mean, 2024. This is the state's response to defendant's motion to dismiss for destroying exculpatory evidence. Now comes the state of Indiana with all of our excuses to tell you why we don't think the case should be dismissed, because, no big whoop. Here's what happened. The recorded interviews of Patrick Westfall and Brad Holder were destroyed. But the state says The interviews of Patrick Westfall and Brad Holder are not evidence at all related to this case. They are simply interviews that the defense wished to use to support a wild theory of this case that has no evidentiary support whatsoever. However, even though the interviews were not evidence, they were not destroyed by the state purposefully or in bad faith. For those reasons, the state would ask the court to deny the motion and in support thereof state the following. That on August 10th of 2017, Carroll County Prosecutor's Office investigator Steve Mullen discovered that the DVR at the Delphi Police Department for the interview room had been recording continuously for an unknown number of days. Mullen determined that data storage on the 6 terabyte drive had been consumed, causing the equipment to record over previous recordings, resulting in lost data. Investigator Mullins called the company who installed the DVR immediately in an attempt to recover the information. The representative advised that all recordings prior to February 20th of 2017 were lost. Everything within the first week, all those recorded interviews, everything was lost. This reminds me of the I'm having flashbacks of the inverted Sally Port video in the Karen Reed case. And here's one of those interviews. Look at this. On February 17th of 2017, investigators interviewed Brad Holder at the Delphi Police Department. This recorded interview was lost due to the DVR recording over as described in paragraph 1. The narrative summary prepared by the investigators from that interview has been provided to the defense. Yeah, but not the video recorded interview, because that's just lost. February 19th, coincidentally, investigators interviewed Patrick Westfall at his home, and a narrative report has been given to the defense. The report does not indicate that the interview was recorded, and no recording has been located in the state's possession. That the defense suggests that the state destroyed these recordings, which they believe to be evidence that is exculpatory in nature, further claiming that the loss of the recordings was negligent or purposeful on part of the state. We say, the state, that the interviews of Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall are neither exculpatory nor are they potentially useful evidence. That the state did not destroy any recordings maliciously or in bad faith. And then they have the cojones to say this. The Due Process Clause does not impose on the state an undifferentiated and absolute duty to retain and preserve all materials that might be of conceivable evidentiary significance in a particular prosecution. We don't have to retain everything. We have no duty to retain everything related to this case. No, we don't. The state only has a constitutional duty to preserve material exculpatory evidence and evidence that is potentially useful to the defense. So their argument is that it wasn't going to be useful, so it doesn't really matter. The mere possibility that a defense may have been created in the future by a piece of destroyed evidence does not mean that there was apparent exculpatory value at the time police acquired the item. I mean, well, judge agreed. Didn't dismiss the case. But you can't make it up, can you? Nope, you just can't. Right, Don K9. Yeah, another wild theory. How come it's always a wild theory when they don't want you to look into it? Not that, Susan. Says, at this point, I have nothing but cover up to explain this. I've kept an open mind, but it's been blown now. Jury's not going to hear about any of this stuff. Serendipity says, and they killed off Fortson and arrested Todd Click, so he can't testify. Joyce says truth is stranger than fiction. Yes, it is. Glitter Beauties, the FBI had these 3 high on their suspect list. But they got kicked off when they were getting too close to the truth. What I don't get is why can't the FBI interview now for corruption? I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they are. Something else that I found interesting when I was in my rabbit hole is this. Take a look. This is an article from 2017. On the Anti-Defamation League website. And it's entitled Behind the American Guard, Hardcore White Supremacists. See the date? Published 3/30/2017. 6 weeks after the murders of Abby and Libby. They're talking about a rally where many wore T-shirts that read American Guard or Vinlanders. If you had somewhat sinister appearances, such as the Murcher who wore Vinlander sunglasses and sported a radical holy war tattoo on the left side of his head. The American Guard formed in Indiana in 2016 and officially went national in February of 2017, right around the same time of these murders, interestingly enough, coincidentally enough. With the stated goal of voluntary community protection, activism, and service based around the ideals of American constitutional nationalism and the preservation of Western culture. The group would, it claimed, encourage Americans of any race, class, or faith to participate with us in these beliefs. But it gets real interesting when you come down here and they start talking about the Vinlanders. There's this guy, Brian James. Vinlander probate member Johnny Messer of Indianapolis can be seen below at the MAGA march, flashing the Vinlanders hand sign and a Facebook image wearing Vinlanders probate patch. Here's Johnny Messer. I think they referred to him as the recruiter. And this is an article that has nothing to do with the murders. I mean, could that guy be Bridge Guy? A lot of guys could be Bridge Guy. Here, below, one can see Vinlander probate member Patrick Westfall at the MAGA march posing with other march participants and in a Facebook image wearing a Vinlander probate shirt. Here's Patrick Westfall, one of the other suspects or people mentioned in these papers. Here he is. In the middle here. Here on the right. But it's just a conspiracy, Myling Cyrus. Just a conspiracy. Agreed, Prince Lover. Even without all this, I don't think they have any evidence that Richard Allen is guilty. But do you trust a jury? After everything that we've seen lately? Okay, this is okay. So this is Patrick Westfall, and this article is from March of 2017, before any of these people were mentioned in any third-party culprit, documents before anybody had been arrested for the crime. Richard Allen wasn't arrested until almost 6 years later. I think those are the only two that are mentioned in these papers that are in this article, but I found it curious, interesting, crazy. Glitter beauties, it's almost like they were waiting for the right fall guy moment so they could say, here, look here, and over there. I mean, if you listen to people who are convinced that Richard Allen is guilty, it's because he put himself on the bridge. He put himself on the bridge because they were asking anybody who had been there to come down and talk about what they knew or saw. And he did that. How many people are going to do that in the future? Right? Since the stream is titled Elvis Has Left the Building, let's look at Elvis Fields again, the guy who confessed twice to committing these crimes. So we're supposed to believe, or the jury is supposed to believe, Richard Allen's confessions, but not Elvis Fields' confessions. Oh, that's right, because they're not even going to hear about Elvis Fields' confessions. They're not even going to hear about them. And here again, in painstaking detail, Elvis Fields' connections to the crime scene. Elvis has left the building. Jury's not going to hear it. As we went over previously, they showed some Facebook posts that Elvis Fields was recreating the Facebook posts of Brad Holder, that there was this 12 or 11-page Odin report that was drafted by the FBI investigators on this case, that somebody testified, was it yesterday, Saturday, or Friday, that in 2021, the FBI was asked to leave the investigation. They were kicked off and told to return all the documents in 2021. Elvis Fields confessed to his sister, Mary Jacobs, on February 14th of 2017. Day after the girls went missing, the same day the bodies were found. He said, I'm now part of a gang and have a brother. Mary Jacobs told law enforcement that Elvis was rambling, hyper, and borderline incoherent. He was talking about having a brother, even though Elvis had no male siblings and was now part of a gang. Elvis told Mary that he had been on a bridge with two girls that were killed. Elvis told her that someone named Abigail was a pain in the ass and a troublemaker. She said Elvis tried to give her, Mary Jacobs, a blue jacket. She told him that she had her own jacket. After Elvis made these statements to his sister, Mary Jacobs, she later became aware of the Delphi murders and put two and two together. So he's telling her this before it was even news. Sometime 2 to 3 weeks after Elvis made the statements, Mary Jacob and her husband, Troy, drove to Delphi. While in Delphi, she talked to law enforcement about the things Elvis had told her on February 14th of 2017, but due to the mass amount of tips that were generated, her information had been overlooked. The defense has requested that the prosecutor locate the tip sheet that contains accurate details as to exactly when Mary Jacobs and her husband visited law enforcement officials in Delphi. She drove down there. Unfortunately, this is yet another piece of evidence that the defense has not received. If my spit is found on the girls, but I can explain it away, would I still be in trouble? Right. This wasn't public information. Mary Jacobs knew about the murder, or she had details about it. It was before the murders had even been announced. And he's outraged. In December of 2018, Mary Jacobs enlisted the help of an old acquaintance of hers named Misty Moore. Since law enforcement had not followed up with Mary Jacobs from earlier in the year when she drove to Delphi and described what Elvis had told her, Mary was still concerned that Elvis was involved in the murders, but nothing was being done about it. Misty worked for Homeland Security out of Greenfield, and Mary was hoping Misty could assist in locating someone from law enforcement who would listen to her and become interested in Elvis Fields. Mary talked to Misty, who then passed the information on to proper law enforcement channels. In January of 2018, Mary was interviewed. On February of 2018, the state police gave Mary Jacobs a polygraph to determine whether Mary was being truthful about what Elvis had told her almost a year earlier. Mary passed the polygraph. More on that later. Based upon what Mary Jacobs had told law enforcement in January 2018, and based upon Mary Jacobs passing a polygraph in February 2018, law enforcement interviewed Elvis on February 27th of 2018. This interview was videotaped, but the defense team just received this video on September 8th of 2023. Yes, Mary Jacobs is the sister. He has two sisters, and he confessed to both of them, as we will see. Purple coconut coming in with the humor. Sometimes we got to keep it light. She passed the polygraph. But then you know what happened? This was in February of 2018. Oh, you know what happened? I'll tell you. If you didn't see the last stream I did, where we went over this. Another tragic circumstance related to this case. The state trooper who did the polygraph, who would be able to authenticate the polygraph test, was killed in a house fire in November of 2022, which coincidentally was about a month after Rick Allen's arrest. Oh, please, no commercials. Trooper Stephanie Thompson and Maya Thompson died February 17th after a fire fully engulfed their Monticello home. Wait, February 17th of what year? Oh, so why is this article updated November 11th? But I guess they died in February of 2022 before Richard Allen was arrested. The scene was examined by department investigators as well as investigators and engineers from the federal ATF. Due to the house being a total loss, no definitive origin and cause could be identified. The department told WRTV in a statement Thursday. I've got an expert witness who can tell you exactly how that fire started, what the origin of that fire was. Really? Sergeant Thompson was a 23-year veteran of the state police and the wife of White Circuit Judge Jason Thompson. Her husband was a judge. She's the one who did administered Mary Jacobs' polygraph test. Oh, yay. Thanks, Scott. Rangers have beaten the Islanders. Yay. Sorry, Scott. I know we're opposing teams on this one, but let's go Rangers. State police and the Indiana Fire Marshal's office are investigating the cause of the fire. Well, this article was updated in November, which was almost a year later, and they still didn't know. Just another crazy coincidence. Like they said in their papers, how many coincidences does it take? Back to the interview of Elvis that was videotaped in February of 2018. Jerry Holman conducted the interview of Elvis. Kevin Murphy was also present. During this interview, Elvis agreed to take a mouth swab that would be used for DNA. Holman and Murphy, both with the state police, explained the purpose of the mouth swab so Elvis was aware that the DNA from his mouth swab would be compared to any DNA from the crime scene. After the interview, Trooper Murphy dropped Elvis off at his trailer. As described on page 1 of the Odin report, after Elvis exited the police vehicle and walked towards his trailer, Elvis turned around before entering his house and walked back to Murphy's vehicle. When Elvis came near the squad car, Elvis posed the question to Murphy, "What would happen if my spit is found on one of the girls, but I have an explanation? Would I still be in trouble?" Elvis then walked back to his trailer. So you've got his sister taking a polygraph that she passed with the confessions that Elvis made to his sister. You've got Elvis's exculpatory statement to a state trooper. Murphy, who, upon hearing that statement, said he immediately called Unified Command and communicated with Detective Jay Harper. Unfortunately, this spit comment made by Elvis to Murphy was not recorded, but Elvis did admit at a later interview that he somewhat remembered this comment concerning the spit. That was during his second interview in June of 2018. On August 22nd of 2018, Elvis's other sister, Joyce, was interviewed by law enforcement officers Murphy and Ferenczi. As you know, Ferenczi was killed by a Molotov cocktail and a gun wielded by a former corrections officer in 2021. On two previous occasions, Joyce had denied that Elvis had made incriminating statements to her, and that is in another interview that she gave. However, in this third interview, Joyce, Elvis's sister, reluctantly recounted to Ferenczi and Murphy statements that Elvis had made to her in the fall of 2017. According to Joyce, sometime in the fall of 2017, Elvis moved in with her following the death of her boyfriend. Joyce recounted the following statements Elvis made to her in the kitchen in October of 2017 at a time when they were living together under the same roof. Here's what he said. "I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm going away for a long time. I was on the trail. I was on that trail and that bridge with those girls when they were murdered. There were two other people there with me when it happened. I spit on one of the girls after they were killed." Oh, Unleashed Rainbow says, how long will it take to get an answer back on this? It's already been denied. It's been denied. So this is the stuff the jury's not going to hear. Despite the fact that a law enforcement officer testified during the trial that he initially thought there was more than one person involved in the murders. They're not going to hear any of this. They've denied it. Not only did Elvis make the incriminating statement about going away for a long time and being on the trail where the girls were murdered, but Elvis also confirmed to Joyce that he had indeed spit on one of the girls. So he told both his sisters that he spit on one of the girls, and he also told Murphy. Plus, to everyone, went one helicopter and is flying. There is a shack in the woods, never investigated. Carter said the shack. Why the shack hid with tree? I don't know what you mean, but I did find some helicopter footage on YouTube of the area. Is that what you're talking about? There was a shack there? Although Elvis reassured Murphy that he would be able to explain the spit, it is unknown at this point if Elvis has provided that explanation. Elvis lied to police, claiming that he did not know Johnny Messer, even though Johnny Messer said he not only knew Elvis, but that Elvis was interested in joining Messer's and Brad Holder's Vinlander crew. In his June 2018 interview, Elvis unequivocally denied knowing the recruiter Johnny Messer. We just looked at Johnny Messer's picture in that article from 2017. However, in his October 2018 interview, Johnny Messer tells a different story. In that October 2018 interview, Johnny Messer states that Elvis lived with his uncle, Uncle Billy Messer. Elvis lived with the recruiter for Vinlander's Uncle Billy. None of this, in the judge's opinion, is relevant. None of this will be heard by the jury. Johnny Messer further stated that he would take firewood to his uncle's home during the winter that Elvis was living with Uncle Billy. Most importantly, Johnny mentioned that Elvis's boss and self-described father figure, Ned Smith, and Elvis's roommate, Rod Abrams, all were interested in joining Johnny Messer's Vinlander Club. However, Johnny Messer claims that the Vinlanders would not be interested in the likes of Elvis, Rod, and Ned Smith. Defense goes on to say the importance of Elvis lying to the police about knowing Johnny Messer cannot be understated. Elvis had to know that if he was connected to Johnny Messer, then Elvis would eventually be connected to Brad Holder. It should again be noted, it is interesting that Ned Smith pursued an attorney for Elvis, and that Ned Smith wanted to sit in on Elvis's October 2018 interview with police. In doing so, Ned was able to learn what type of questions were being asked of Elvis and provided Ned the ability to end the interview if Elvis started saying anything incriminating to Elvis, Ned, or Rod Abrams. Yes, Lindsay. As wild and criminal all of this is, it's honestly really cringe. These grown men wanting to be in another man's club. Elvis is the weak link. Put him in a room and he will talk. They also said something like somewhere in these papers that Elvis had the mental capacity of like a 7 or 8-year-old. They go on at length to talk about Elvis's purported alibi, that he lied where he was, that he said that he was home. In June of 2018, he said that he was home in Rushville. It's previously noted by Murphy in his opinion, Elvis Fields has the mentality of a 7 or 8-year-old. Still, rather than admit that he had no idea where he was on February 13th of 2017, Elvis claimed he specifically remembered not leaving Rushville on that date. And then here's the Rod Abrams problem, because Rod Abrams was interviewed. And Rod Abrams said that on February 13th, he, Elvis, and Ned Smith were in Muncie that day visiting a sick friend at the hospital. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. He also said that both he and Elvis had their phones with them. When told that law enforcement would check cell phone records to see if Rod was actually at the hospital in Muncie, Rod explained that hospitals cut cell reception on phones because they interfere with hospital equipment. So their phones probably would not show that they were at the hospital in Muncie. In supplement 542 Joyce Moffett interview provided, why am I, look like I was freezing up. I might have to restart my browser. YouTube's been really glitchy lately. I don't know, this may be a StreamYard issue. Tell me if I'm freezing. I have too many tabs open. Strains credulity. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Okay. There's like a little bit of a delay, so let me know. I just did it again. StreamYard, YouTube, all of it. Let me close all the tabs that I have open. Maybe that's the problem. Nothing to see here. And on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Elvis also described forming horns out of sticks and placing them on Abby's head, and crime scene photos confirm Elvis's statement. Perhaps the most damaging piece of evidence that links Elvis to the crime scene was found in an unusual place, the middle of a report that memorialized the results of Mary Jacobs' polygraph examination. In Mary's pre-examination interview, polygraph examiner Stephanie Thompson recorded that Mary Jacobs stated the following. Elvis told her, Abigail is a little troublemaker, that he placed leaves on her and used sticks to give her horns. Horns and antlers are common symbols used in pagan rituals, and Brad Holder himself displayed the Odinite fascination with horns on his Facebook posts. Here's some exhibits showing that, proving that. They attached them. Find attached a close-up photograph of Abby's head from the crime scene. From a distance, it may not be immediately noticeable. However, upon closer inspection, it's obvious that someone involved in the killings intentionally placed small sticks from a tree on top of Abby's hair to resemble horns or antlers. The horns formed sticks on Abby's head look similar to the image found on Holder's Facebook page. The defense has not viewed one single report that discusses the sticks placed atop Abby's hair shaped like horns and antlers being compared with Elvis's statement to his sister that he shaped sticks into horns on Abby. Therefore, the presumption is that Unified Command never figured this out. Trooper Purdy was present at the polygraph examination, but was not able to watch the examination and therefore would not know about Elvis's words to his sister Mary about using sticks to form horns on Abby. Rather than now being curious in the year 2023 as to how Elvis knew such a thing, and then using this new information as a basis to secure a search warrant or even an arrest warrant on Elvis, when factoring in all of the other evidence, sadly, it is expected that law enforcement will do the exact opposite of being curious. It is expected that law enforcement will claim that the photograph does not prove anything, or that the defense is exaggerating the photograph. Perhaps Unified Command will huddle together and establish the go-to party line stance on how to deal with the problems created within the polygraph examination information and photo of sticks formed as horns on Abby's head in the crime scene photographs. It would be refreshing if someone in Unified Command could stop worrying about how the public will view their incompetence, admit to mistakes, and then perform the type of police work that should have been performed 6 years ago. The defense is not holding its breath. As the defense told Holman in his deposition, the unfortunate expectation is that Holman and Liggett will try to figure out how to solve the problem rather than to solve the case of who murdered those girls. And then, give me 1 second before we get to Patrick Westfall's connection to the crime scene. This is terrible, horrible, no good, very bad StreamYard. I don't know what's going on. I had to restart my browser. It's totally glitchy. A lot of people say they're having trouble since StreamYard was bought. And I don't know, we're not breaking the internet, I don't think, today with this, with 2,300 people here. But that reminds me that if all of you would hit the like button, that would be so amazing. It's a great crowd for a Sunday. And we're looking at 1,100 likes. That's pretty good. That's like about 50%. So it would be very, very kind of you if you would do me the honor and favor of just smashing the like button so that this information can get out there to the GP. Because the general public needs to know about this stuff. Oh, is that what happened? The new owners of StreamYard downgraded the server capacity. This is like, it's bad. And I'm hooked up to the Ethernet too, so I can't even blame FiOS for this. Yeah, terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good day. It was a really good day, according to Sarah Boone. It was a really good day. Oh my gosh. My Chrome, it gave me the aw snap all the time when I'm watching YouTube, when I'm watching other people's streams. I get the aw snap and then it cuts out. I don't know if it's a YouTube issue. I don't know if it's a Google issue. Is everyone else getting the aw snap issue with YouTube? It seems to be only on YouTube. Thank you, Scott. Please hit the like button to push the video out. Hello to Boston, Donna Marie. Thank you so much. That's right. They need to know. People need to know. Aw, snap. Like, yeah, aw, snap. Sounds like a YouTube and Chrome issue, maybe. Clean your cookies. Okay, I'll clean my cookies later. Thank you. I will do that. Mark. Mark, it's got Jerry's finger. Mark has Jerry's hand. R.I.P. Phil Lesh. Carroll County has a history. All the slain law enforcement players, the feds need to investigate. I think you know what I'm saying. You know it's going to get stranger. So let's get on with the show. They've cursed your internet, Mel. Internet. Yeah, Andrew Burkhart and I bonded last night over the Grateful Dead and on Grateful Dead lyrics. Somebody had suggested once that we do a show in Grateful Dead lyrics. Because I think in song lyrics, she's a deadhead too. So we can oh, thank you. StreamYard was bought by Bending Spoons. Bending Spoons is located in Italy, and Italy is having torrential flooding right now. Well, that could explain some of the issues. Loudmouse. I lived in Indiana. The whole state is loaded with good old boys club. I used to work as an admin at the PD. It's all about who you know and not what you know. Maybe they don't want to know what you know, right? Otter Woodman says Elvis is the loosest and one could create. It's almost like he was to be the sacrificial lamb. Yeah. Tony says, yeah, YouTube's been hell lately. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I pay for premium too. Pay for StreamYard, pay for premium. It's a thing. I thought maybe my laptop was running out of storage, but I cleaned that out too, so it's not that. And here's Patrick Westfall's connection to the crime scene. We did discuss a lot of this in the prior streams, but here we will lay it out again for those of you who didn't see it. Here's a quick recap. Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall were friends until at least January 21, 2017, as proven by Facebook and the photo previously attached. However, according to Amber Holder and law enforcement monitoring Facebook posts between Holder and Westfall, a fight between Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall occurred sometime in February 2017 concerning a ritual gone bad in the woods near a creek. I mean, come on, you guys. This was told to law enforcement by Amber Holder. An independent witness. In the Odin report, Brad Holder told Amber Holder the person that murdered the girls was Patrick Westfall and his crew. Furthermore, as referenced in the Odin report, Brad Holder told Amber Holder that Patrick Westfall is dangerous and has powerful friends that will protect him. And Amber needs to back off or Brad will not be able to protect her. Brad Holder told law enforcement that Patrick Westfall has PTSD. The video or the ritual in Fort Wayne that Ferenczi sent to Liggett and which has been attached as an exhibit shows Brad Holder videotaping someone that looks like Patrick Westfall using his fingers to mark a tree in the ceremony at about the same height that the F tree was marked with Libby's blood, leaving the question of whether Patrick Westfall marked the F tree in the same way that he marked the tree in the Fort Wayne ceremony video. Patrick Westfall lives within a 7-minute drive of where the girls were murdered. Johnny Messer and Brad Holder commonly hung out at the Monon High Bridge and in the woods around the Monon High Bridge. Patrick Westfall also admitted that he knew the woods around the Monon Trail very well. And this comes from, the source is Messer's videotaped interview from October of 2018 that the defense just received in September of 2023. Somebody asked about this yesterday, so I'm glad this is where I saw it. A Patrick Westfall Facebook post from just 2 months before the girls are murdered shows Westfall cutting tree limbs into runes by slicing the tree limb with an electronic saw, creating clean, smooth edges to the tree limb. In that Facebook post, Brad Holder is commenting, quote, "cutting runes," 4 exclamation points. At the crime scene, one of the tree limbs placed on Abby has its end sliced cleanly and smoothly, similarly to the way that Patrick Westfall is slicing the tree limbs in Exhibit 98. Thank you, Heidi. I'm so glad you found me too. Thank you, Heidi. This is what I'm afraid of. People who are just tuning into this case, watching it, hearing about it, becoming outraged about it, have not heard all of this background stuff that's been litigated in the years preceding this. Richard Allen has been in custody for exactly 2 years, just past the 2-year mark. 13 of which was spent in solitary confinement in a maximum security prison where non-convicted offenders, pretrial detainees are not supposed to be held in conditions that are deplorable, horrifying, torturous. Solitary confinement with lights on 24 hours a day, that would make anyone crazy. He was forcibly injected with Haldol. Look up the side effects of Haldol if you don't believe me. Forcibly medicated. His psychologist or psychiatrist, Monica Walla, who was seeing him like every day while he was in solitary, was following all kinds of YouTubers with regard to Delphi. Knew a whole bunch of stuff and was talking to Richard Allen every single day. And there's people out there, twidiots, who say he had a tablet. He had a tablet, which is more than the other prisoners in that ward get. Nobody in that facility or in the history of the state of Indiana has ever been held in the hole for more than 30 days. Why? Because it'll make somebody go crazy. High wild lights are dosed with so much Haldol, I didn't recognize my own mother. I don't know about rats and roaches eating his food, but I do know about him eating his own feces and smearing it all over his face. There was testimony to that effect around the same time as he started making these alleged confessions. Drinking out of the toilet, drinking toilet water. These other prisoners in that ward were, they were found guilty. All of a sudden in this country, it's like so many people have just lost sight of the constitutional right that people have to be presumed innocent until if and when found guilty in a court of law. It's amazing to me the way people are backing up what the treatment that whether you believe that he's the bridge guy, whether you believe that he's the murderer or not. I really don't even think there's any evidence connecting bridge guy to the murders. Like, bridge guy could be anybody. He was only allowed to see his wife twice in 13 months. He was being guarded by prison guards who were Odinists. I mean, at some point, common sense has to come into play here. Number 13, Westfall's alibi for February 13th, 2017 is that on the day of the abduction, Patrick Westfall was at home with his son, Nick. There's no evidence that law enforcement knocked on doors to determine if Patrick Westfall was at home at that time, nor any evidence that law enforcement walked around the neighborhood to see if any ring door cameras or any other type of cameras caught Patrick Westfall leaving the house. Law enforcement just believed Patrick Westfall. Patrick Westfall was a pastor for a religion known as a Satru, which is a warrior type of religion with many gods, including Odin and Thor. That's a great, great question, Christy, a painter's daughter. How can they take away someone's liberties before conviction? They just did. They said it was for safekeeping, for his own safety. He's being treated like a prisoner of war. Worse than, maybe. Mary says the DOJ is sitting back and taking notes. Rick Allen's civil rights have been violated, and now it's public. Right, Laura? And in that state, he had no ability to be advocated for or to advocate for himself. There was a period of time that he was incarcerated that he didn't even have attorneys or any way to get attorneys. He had nobody advocating for him. He had to write a letter to the court to say, please, please give me an attorney. Appoint me an attorney. Patrick Westfall and Brad Holder were both affiliated with the Vinlanders Club or gang, along with Johnny Messer. On March 2nd, 2017, only 16 days after the girls were found murdered, Unified Command member Kevin Hammond indicated there was no lead required concerning Patrick Westfall, meaning no further need to investigate Patrick Westfall. I don't know who Patrick Westfall is, but is he a powerful guy? Hi, Hannah. I only started watching trials during Karen Reed, and since I've watched almost all of your live trials with you, is it always this scary or just bad timing? This is scary. Thank you. Karen Reed was the first trial that I live streamed. I'm new to LawTube. I only started my channel. I only started posting my own content in a little over a year ago. And we have grown. We have grown, you guys, to 71.3 thousand of you in a little over a year. So thank you for watching. And I tend to pick trials that I think are interesting, Hannah. I don't think they're all like this. I think it's maybe my choice of things that we cover, because for the more than 30 years that I've practiced law here in the state of New York, I've been an advocate for victims and survivors of all kinds of horrific things, including handling the cases for many, many plaintiffs against the Catholic Church here on Long Island when that scandal broke in Boston in 2002. And so I took on the Catholic Church, and I am Catholic. So that was very personal to me. So I worked on those cases for close to 20 years. They were all thrown out because the statute of limitations in New York was such that if you could keep a kid quiet long enough, you'd never go to jail and you'd never have to worry about a civil suit. So having advocated for victims and survivors of so many horrific things throughout my career, these are the kind of cases that I choose to cover, because some cases really need a voice. And I'm here at home in the comfort of my own studio trying to supplement what my friends, they've now become my friends, are doing in Delphi, standing in line all night to go to court to get the word out. I'm trying to supplement it. Andrea Burkhart, Bob and Ali Mata, Lawyer Lee. I don't know Lawyer Lee, but Lauren from Hidden True Crime. They're doing the hard work. I'm just here trying to give a voice to the rest of the stuff that they don't have time to cover, that maybe they covered years ago, that people have forgotten, that people who now are becoming aware of this case don't know about. And it's important. Because if you thought Karen Reed was bad, Karen Reed was out on bail the whole time. She wasn't held in these deplorable conditions. And eventually she was allowed to introduce evidence in the trial of the potential third parties who murdered police officer John O'Keefe. But this is insane. They go on to say, it appears that Westfall was interviewed one time, February 19th, 2017. Well, that interview was taped over, remember? 2 weeks later, on March 2nd, Westfall was eliminated as a suspect. Paragraph above starts with, Patrick Westfall is connected to the crime scene in multiple ways. It's unknown if Brad Holder threw Patrick Westfall under the bus to Amber Holder in order to take the stink off of himself, or if Brad Holder knows that Westfall murdered those girls and then marked the tree like he did in the Fort Wayne ceremony. Either way, it cannot be understated that one single solitary softball interview between law enforcement and Patrick Westfall is disgraceful, considering everything listed above that links Westfall to the crimes. Let's repeat that. It appears that Westfall was interviewed one time, February 19th, 2017. 2 weeks later, on March 2nd of 2017, Westfall was eliminated as a suspect. Defense is unaware of any search warrants requested on Patrick Westfall to determine whether this Asatru pastor had taken clothes of Libby or Abby as a ceremonial keepsake, or even if he had saved Abby's blood. There's a lot of blood missing. By looking at the 5-page report generated from the only interview of Patrick Westfall, it looks like the law enforcement did nothing but lob giant softballs at Westfall rather than conduct an intense interrogation the way citizens would expect for someone that the evidence shows is so closely connected to the crimes. And then it goes on and tells all the reasons why Johnny Messer was connected to the crime scene, and so on and so forth. But I only really wanted to talk about Elvis and Brad Holder because those are the ones who were specifically mentioned in the defense's second motion to allow in third-party culprits. If you'd like to see all of these documents, you can find them at, is it alleyesondelphi.com? Let's go to the chat. What say you? Let's not diss any other creators in the chat. It's just not classy. I don't like to do it. I don't like to see you guys do it either. You can disagree, but I don't really like to diss other creators at all. Except for, well, there's one. There's one who came to court one day for 1 hour and then went on and completely misreported everything about that happened in court that day with regard to the confessions. Because if she had stuck around for longer than an hour, she might have had a different take on the confessions and on under what conditions they were given. So, there's that. And then Jennifer Coffin Doofus reposted a post of hers and then trashed me on Twitter for being one of those people who, only reports on, it was about something about victims' families being blamed by YouTube creators. I'm like, I have never, ever came after a victim's family, ever. And then Coffin Doofus called me out in one of her tweets while she was retweeting Nancy Grace about me being one of the people that's attacking the O'Keefe family. I'm like, girl, you better check yourself. Better check yourself. She will not be named. Yeah. Well, Coffin Doofus. That was Nancy Grace. It was Nancy Grace who went into court for 1 hour and then came out and, and had like a really crazy, like outside the courthouse stream that really wasn't a full reporting of what happened because she didn't stick around. All right. Would you guys like to go over Andrea Burkhart's filing her writ of mandamus to the Supreme Court of Indiana? I've had a lot of requests for that, but let's go to the chat for questions. Hello, Jazia. Did you see email I sent? I get 1,000 emails a day. I don't know. I confuse names. Logan Holder is sketch number 3, in my opinion. Thank you. I will look at that later. We did go over all the sketches, I think on the last stream. Thank you so much. Judge Gull, take my word for it. Nothing to see here. Move along. Thanks, Melanie Schuyler. Craig Cope, thanks for becoming a member. Sarah and Shaganara, who is not only an amazing moderator for this channel, but so very generous. Welcome to the 10 new members who have been gifted randomly by YouTube to join the community. Thank you so very much. Melanie Parker, thank you. No cameras, no wonder. Somebody's got a sign outside the courthouse, right? That says that. Free Richard Allen. Thank you, Melanie, for your super chat. John Peterbot, how can this be denied? I haven't seen a written decision. But I agree. Doesn't the jury deserve to know about this stuff? Doesn't the defendant deserve to be able to put on a defense? Law enforcement initially said, and they testified on the stand, that they believed it was more than one killer. So even if Richard Allen isn't involved, shouldn't the jury hear that there may be other people? Like it strains credulity. Thank you, Ann Smith. Thanks for the 5, and thank you for prefacing your statement by, I know it's speculation, but I still think a lot of this has to do with a big drug bust in Rushville on January 6th of 2017. A lot of common actors. That's interesting. Sounds like you fell into the rabbit hole of that one, Ann. That is one conspiracy theory that I haven't heard about. Replay crew, because I'm late to cupcake class. Hi, Mel. Hi, BLT. Thanks for coming in and for giving me the deuce just to say hi. Thank you, Revy, for the $10 super sticker. You're very kind. Motion to scream, WTF granted. That's a great name, number 1, and welcome, number 2. Thanks for joining. Midnight Mike, thanks for bringing all this to light for us. Thank you, Mike, for always being here, for always cheering me on, and for being a great and integral part of this channel. Some guy with cancer who wants to join my club. We don't talk to each other, and no one touches my cookies. They're chocolate chip. All right. Tate's makes the best chocolate chip cookies. Prove me wrong. The best. Thank you, some guy with cancer, as always, for the 5, and I'm sorry about your cancer. Cyber Chicken Boston, 2 months feels like 2 years in a good way. Thanks, Cyber Chicken Boston. Thank you very, very much. Let's see. Oh, no, I did not see that about the Google searches. I mean, does anybody know what the Google searches even really are? Because were they even shown in court? I don't know. I know they were trying to get in some Google searches that were allegedly made by Richard Allen's device. They can't really show that it was actually him who made them, because I think at one point they said that his wife was going to testify that she also used that device. So I don't even know. I don't even want to put the Google searches up because I don't even know if they're real. And I'm document paste. He was looking for the name of a movie. Yeah, something like that, right? Let's take a look at Andrea's petition for a writ of mandamus to the Indiana Supreme Court. So what had happened was the day that Ali Mata went to court, I remember it was a Saturday because I think we were on a show together like that night. I went on a show with her. We did a show together. And after the close of testimony, the exhibits are shown apparently to the media for 15 minutes. And so Ali tried to get up there into the well of the courtroom. And she was chastised by this reporter from a local Indiana, I guess, paper or something, who said, "You're not media, you're not media." And then Judge Gull apparently told Ali, "You're not media, get out." Did she go over the papers last night? If she did, then I'm not going to do it again. Tell me. Did she read them? If she already did, there's no reason for me to do it. So you guys tell me. It was the first Saturday when Andrea was home. So she filed a writ of mandamus, a petition for a writ of mandamus in the Indiana Supreme Court. Exactly. How can anybody be mean to Ali? Says Joy. asking the Indiana Supreme Court to order Judge Gull to make the audio of the trial public. Oh, she went over the Google searches. That's what you're talking about. Okay. Got it. Go over the papers. All right, Julia, go over the papers. Does she ever sleep? I don't know. I don't know, because she can talk for 5, 6 hours at a time. That girl's like, she's got a lot of energy. Yeah, there was a link, right? But people wanted me to read them because a lot of people didn't understand, or they don't have Substack or whatever. I don't even know what Substack is, but here I am. We're going to look at the papers. Oh, except there's one part that's not redacted, so let me skip past that. So this is her petition for a writ of mandamus in the Indiana Supreme Court. Now, because this is on Substack and I don't have a hard copy, it's a little bit blurry. So if you like following along, you know, I'm just giving you a warning. Yeah, we're going to do it. We've already discussed it. Thanks, Mary. She says, I need a Melanie Andrea stream. The snark factor will be off the charts. You know it. You know it. I'm going to let her get a little bit of sleep first. And then when she's feeling fresh, she absolutely said she wants to come on. So that is awesome. Yes, she's sleeping today. I think she needs to sleep. Writ of Matt Damon. Thank you, Talia. Bus stop juror. Wow, that's all the way back from the Maya trial, right? When the defense firm called the jurors a bunch of bus stop people. Wow, you're an OG, Talia. Some people like being read to. I know. I like to put on my best ASMR voice for you and read along. The AB. Yes, the AB. All right. Bubbling relics. Injected with Haldol, and we don't know how much for sure, and don't know what else they gave him either. Slipped him or threatened to slip him. Yeah. Yeah. That's why, in my opinion, these confessions are not so reliable. And I don't think that that van was the smoking gun that they thought it was, because that was out there in the public domain since 2017 about this white van theory. And also, he was being fed information from Dr. Monica Walla, who was a true crime junkie, who I think was watching Defense Diaries, among other channels, all about Richard Allen's case before she ever started treating Richard Allen. Okay? Here is Andrea's. Thank you. Here's Andrea's petition. Richard Allen is currently standing trial in the Carroll County Circuit Court for the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. This case has captured global attention and interest, with tens, if not hundreds of thousands of members of the public around the world praying for this trial to bring justice to Abigail Williams and Liberty German, as well as peace and closure to the families of the victims and the community of Delphi, Indiana. But in spite of this overwhelming public interest, and in contradiction to fundamental principles of transparency in court proceedings and accountability of government, the court has cloaked this process in secrecy from its inception. Today, this inexplicable hostility to the openness of criminal proceedings, a principle enshrined in the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, has culminated in the court's decisions to improperly bar portions of the public from access to parts of the trial while providing privileged access to others, and to unlawfully deny public access to court records generated in the course of the trial under Indiana's rules on access to court records, ACR. In his letter appointing Edmund Randolph as the first Attorney General of the United States, George Washington expressed his conviction that the due administration of justice is the firmest pillar of good government. Well, you gotta love a good George Washington quote. She's an amazing writer, by the way. Not every lawyer is a good writer, because legal writing is a whole specific skill set of its own. This petition seeks to restore a small measure of transparency to the trial of Richard Allen as mandated by the ICAR so that the public can evaluate for itself the justice that is being administered in the Carroll County Circuit Court in this trial. Facts supporting the petition. In the case of State v. Richard Allen commenced on October 14th, trial in the case of State v. Richard Allen commenced on October 14th, 2024 in Allen County, Indiana. The evidentiary phase of trial commenced on October 18th of 2024 in Carroll County, Indiana. The Honorable Francis C. Gull is presiding. Okay, for those of you who don't know, the jury was picked in Allen County. And then the jury was bussed, which I understand is about 2 hours, to Carroll County, Indiana, where the trial is being held. And they are sequestered. They're in a hotel. Their devices have been taken away. And they're going to be sequestered until a verdict, which is, it's a burden on a jury. Prior to trial, representatives of media organizations requested access to view the exhibits admitted in the course of the trial. Judge Gull informed the media that the exhibits would not be made available for public viewing until after the trial concluded, or if Mr. Allen were convicted after sentencing. Judge Gull subsequently reconsidered her decision and entered an order permitting members of the media to view the exhibits for 15 minutes at the conclusion of each trial day. The order makes no provision for any member of the public to view the exhibits under the same conditions as the media. Many of the exhibits are being published to the jury by providing individual copies such that these exhibits are not displayed in the courtroom and cannot be viewed by trial attendees seated in the gallery. I have attended the trial each day as a member of the public. I am an attorney licensed in Washington and Oregon who provides legal commentary on a variety of internet platforms, and I have been covering and analyzing the trial of Richard Allen. Although my coverage reaches tens of thousands of viewers because I operate independently of traditional news media outlets, I do not qualify as media under Indiana law. Public attendance at the trial is limited to 24 seats. Because of the extensive public interest in this case, competition for the seats requires those who wish to attend to arrive the night before or early in the morning of trial and camp in line on the courthouse steps. One individual from the local community informed me that there are many locals who have been deeply affected by this crime who wish to attend, but are deterred from doing so by the crowds and the conditions that must be endured in order to gain access to the courtroom. Accordingly, I sought to obtain copies of the audio recordings of the trial in the belief that allowing the public direct access to the record of proceedings will alleviate the necessity to attend the trial in order to be informed about what is transpiring, thus easing the chaos that is characterizing public trial attendance, restoring dignity of the proceeding, and improving the local community's opportunities to attend in person. Beginning on October 18th, 2024, Judge Gull made the trial exhibits available for inspection by credentialed members of the media attending the trial by placing them on a table in front of the jury box and inviting them into the to view them. On October 19th of 2024, a member of the public attempted to view the exhibits on the same conditions as the media. That was Ali Mata. Judge Gull refused to allow the individual to view the exhibits and ordered her to leave. In light of Judge Gull's actions excluding the non-media individual from access to the exhibits, and because I am not media within the meaning of the October 16th, 2024 order, I became concerned that if I sought to view the exhibits, which as court records are presumptively available to the public for inspection and copying, I could be excluded from the courtroom entirely. Because of my concerns about the local community's inability to attend the trial and the exclusion of some members of the public from viewing the exhibits that others are allowed to inspect, I filed a motion requesting 1, copies of the audio recordings of the trial pursuant to Indiana ACR 3, and 2, parity and access to the trial exhibits on the same terms and conditions as was being afforded to credentialed media members pursuant to ACR 2A. Judge Gull denied my motion the following day, holding that Indiana Trial Rule 74D, a rule that expressly applies only to civil proceedings, prohibits release of the audio recordings to me because I am not a party to the case. Judge Gull dismissed my request for parity in access to the trial exhibits as merely a complaint about how she is conducting the trial. Okay, I'm gonna go on Glare's channel tonight at 6. Just want to let you guys know in case you want to come over and join. I bring this petition requesting this honorable court to compel Judge Gull and the Carroll County Circuit Court to comply with the ACR and provide the requested copies of audio recordings and access to the trial exhibits, jurisdictional statements, and original action standards. This court has jurisdiction over this petition as an original action. See Indiana Original Action Rule 1A. you know, Andrea does her homework and her research. This application has been made expeditiously after the respondent court's failure to act when it had a duty to do so became an issue. The respondent court has failed to act when it had a duty to act by denying public access to the audio recordings of the trial that constitute a publicly accessible court record, and by excluding ordinary members of the public from access to view the trial exhibits that has been granted to credentialed members of the news media, contrary to the express provisions of the ACR. Citing some cases. Because the trial is ongoing, each day that Judge Gull's order remains in effect impose a continuing harm on the public's right of access to the trial proceedings. Moreover, because my request for limited intervention was denied, I am not a party to the case and lack standing to appeal. Citing more cases about why she has standing. Consequently, the denial of this petition will result in extreme hardship to the rights of the public, and there is no adequate remedy available by appeal. Rule 2A, the Rules of Procedure for Original Actions, contains a required condition precedent that the subject matter of the original action must be raised and ruled on the trial court prior to the filing of an original action. This matter was brought to the trial court by motion, and the trial court ruled on the motion, making the issue ripe for this proceeding. Grounds for writ of mandamus. Original actions provide extraordinary remedies and will be issued only where the trial court has an absolute duty to act or refrain from acting. Writs are appropriate for cases that strike at the heart of the public trust in the integrity of the judicial process. This case meets these standards. ACR 1 provides that the ACR governs access to public records and applies to everyone who creates a court record. Under ACR 3A, a court record includes a case record, and a case record is any document, information, data, or other item created, collected, received, or maintained by a court agency, or clerk of court in connection with a particular case under ACR 3B. Indiana Rules of Criminal Procedure, Rule 5. Every court exercising criminal jurisdiction in the state must arrange and provide for the electronic recording or stenographic reporting of any and all oral evidence and testimony given in all cases and hearings, including both questions and answers, all rulings of the judge in respect to the admission and rejection of evidence and objections thereto, and any other oral matters occurring during the hearing in any proceeding. If the court does not prepare a transcription of the proceeding, then the electronic recording is to be maintained as a court record for 55 years in felony cases, such as Mr. Allen's prosecution for murder. Yes, Criminal Network. Richard Allen had the nerve to look up scary movies on Netflix. He's obviously the killer, folks. Case closed. Obviously. Under the combined effect of these rules, the electronic recording is a case record that is subject to public disclosure under the provisions of the ACR. ACR 4A provides that court records are generally accessible to the public, and ACR 4B states that this rule of accessibility applies to all court records regardless of format. ACR 4C permits the court to manage access to the audio recordings to prevent substantial interference with the resources or operations of the court, or to comply with rules on public broadcasting of court proceedings that are not applicable to this request, but specifically provides that this rule may not operate to deny any person access to a court record. Public access includes the right to both inspect and copy a court record under ACR 3F. Providing a digital copy of the file as requested requires little to nothing more than dragging and dropping a file that has already been created onto a data storage medium I have offered to provide at my own expense for that purpose, or onto a cloud-based storage medium such as Google Drive or Dropbox that can typically be accessed by establishing a free account. No substantial interference with the court's operations would result. In the order denying the motion to intervene and for public access to court records, Judge Gull ignores the foregoing provisions and instead cites Indiana Trial Rule 74D, which is inapplicable on its face. By express provision, the Indiana Trial Rules apply only to civil actions, not a criminal action such as the case at issue. See Indiana Trial Rule 1, which says, except as otherwise provided, these rules govern the procedure and practice in all courts of the state of Indiana in all suits of a civil nature. Under the express provisions of the ACR, Judge Gull has an absolute duty to provide a copy of the electronic recordings if doing so does not substantially interfere with the operation of the court. Under the proposed mechanism for providing the copies, the time and expense the copy request imposes is trivial. The ACR further establishes procedures governing the sealing of trial exhibits. Under ACR 7A, any exhibit to be excluded from public access must be accompanied by a separate written notice identifying a specific ground under Rule 5 for sealing the record. No such notices have been filed concerning the trial exhibits in this case. Indeed, Judge Gull has already permitted certain members of the public to view the exhibits at the end of each court day, but she has limited this access to credentialed members of the media, thereby creating a privileged class of individuals who are receiving greater access to court records than others. Truth. All persons are to have access to court records under ACR 2A. Nothing in the rules contemplates preferred access or excluding some members of the public from access that is being freely afforded to others. Having established a procedure for inspection of the trial court exhibits, Judge Gull has an absolute duty under ACR 2A to provide the same access to all members of the public who are present in the courtroom and wish to inspect them. Although these requirements are clear and unambiguous and were brought to the attention of Judge Gull, she has refused to fulfill the obligations the rule imposes on her to provide the requested public access. Issuance of a writ of mandamus is appropriate and necessary to compel compliance with the ACR. And here is a statement of the precise relief sought. This is what she's looking for on behalf of you, me, and the public, the worldwide public, because the world is watching. Relator respectfully requests that a permanent writ of mandamus be issued, mandating that Judge Gull and the Carroll County Circuit Court provide digital copies of the electronic recordings of the trial proceedings in the matter of State v. Richard Allen, mandating that Judge Gull and the Carroll County Circuit Court provide equal access on comparable terms and conditions to view the exhibits admitted in the above referenced trial to all members of the public present in the courtroom at the time of the viewing. And that is it. And then there's a brief that goes on with some additional case law. That's the gist of it. Comments, thoughts, questions, concerns. Yeah, Andrew's like, this isn't personal, Judge. This is about the law and how you aren't following it. Exactly. Exactly. I don't know what the rules are with regard to credentialed media, but it varies from state to state, from trial to trial. And you know, during the Karen Reed trial, some people could get credentialed as media, some people couldn't. It depends. Some court rules say that you have to have a website. Some say that you have to be employed by a certain period a certain organization for a certain period of time, right, Olivia Nile? Hi, Olivia Nile. Judge Gull is a judicial tyrant. She makes Judge Bev look like what? Look like who? I need a good analogy for that. Judge Gull makes Judge Bev look like blank. Barbara says, so glad that people like you, Lawyer Lee, Andrea, and Lauren really care and make it public. We're trying. But at least I am. Thank you, Samantha Smith, for your super sticker. And thank you, Mike, for gifting a membership. Midnight Mike gifted a membership. Yay, Mike. Thank you, Samantha Smith, for thanking me with another super sticker, super chat. We demand fair trials for Richard Allen and Karen Reed. Thank you. And thank you, Pamela Campbell, for your super sticker. Made for TV movie. Richard Allen will be played by Danny DeVito. No, Danny DeVito is way too old, I think, at this point, don't you? I don't know how old he is, but Richard Allen is what, 50? Julia says, Judge Gull has to be hating that she allowed the credentialed media to view the exhibits, opening up her parts of this filing. Yep. Yep. Bubbly Relic's great. Now I'm going to be saying papers. Where are the papers? You got to get the papers. You got to sign the papers. At work uncontrollably. I know. Makes, yeah, that's it. Judge Gull makes Andy Bev look like a cupcake. That's awesome. Or Mary Poppins. There's a good one. I know people have been saying that about Brad Holder and the prosecutor being brother Masons. I don't know. I can't confirm or deny, but I mean, that's some word on the street. Heidi, Judge Gull knows exactly who Andrea is, and I think she'll retaliate this week. Somehow she's going to try and keep Andrea out. Mark my words. Got to be honest, I have a little bit of a little concern for her safety there. It seems like there's maybe some dangerous people there involved in this. Maybe just my own personal thoughts and opinions. A Girl Scout. Yeah, I was thinking that too. Mother Teresa, a schoolgirl. Yep. Some people think that Gull has personal, perhaps Asatru or Odinist connections to the proceeding. I mean, it just all of this stuff strains credulity. How many coincidences are too many? You know. Rachel, how long do you think it will take for them to look at this? I love strong women coming together for the good of all. Well, you know, it's kind of it's kind of time sensitive, right? Time is of the essence here because the trial's almost over. I would hope that they would look at it expeditiously, but I don't know. You know, I don't know what their schedule is like. I mean, look, we're coming up on holidays now, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Like, I don't know when the Indiana Supreme Court is in session. I don't know if and when they will, somebody said, I just tried to check your credentials. I ended up on IMDb. Well, I have an IMDb page, but I also have a LinkedIn page. You could check there if you'd like to know my credentials. I'm a graduate of the University of Colorado at Boulder, and then I'm a graduate of the University of Denver College of Law. I've been a New York State practicing licensed attorney for over 30 years. So I don't know who wanted to know that. Baba Wanga. You can look there too. LinkedIn is a thing. Glinda, the good. Was there any proof that they read him his rights? Well, in one of the interrogations, there was. The other interrogation, that part of the tape, coincidentally, was cut off. Apparently, there was some testimony about that. You see, and so in one of the interrogations that was videotaped, he was. In another one, he wasn't. Diane Brewer says, even if he's guilty, which is highly questionable, he's not getting treated fairly. He's being railroaded. This is true. Judge Siegel. Kimmy says that law needs to be changed. The mainstream media has lost respect. More social media channels like Rumble, etc., are the media. That's true. People are seeing the death of mainstream media, I think, and a lot of creators over there, mainstream media-wise, are mad about it. Did anybody see that horrific court TV piece with that attorney who looks like Satan talking about how much he hates Karen Reed? Oh my God, I couldn't even believe it. Go look it up on Court TV's YouTube. It was unbelievable. And then comment on it. It was unbelievable. Wow. Just wow. Yeah, wasn't that wild? Grandma Shirley, scarily people, these white supremacists. Yeah. And it's not all Odinists are not, this is an offshoot. It's an offshoot. It's a white supremacy group that is like a subgroup who may practice some Odinism or Asatru practices in some ways and not in others. You saw that guy, Zimmy? None Yisha business, wants to start his own news station. Yeah, please remember to hit the like button and thumbs up. Thank you so very much for doing that. For Jennifer's is Melanie is our media. Thank you so much. Just be careful with the words that you put in the chat because YouTube has AI scanning it all the time. And there's certain words that they don't like. Criminal Network said a lot of us were conspiracy theorists a few months ago. Yeah, Diplomatic Diva, did you see it? Marianne says, when was it? It was like from yesterday or like 2 days ago. You haven't seen it? Should we watch it before we wrap? First, let me see if you have any more questions on this. You know what? Let's watch it together so that we can, so that we don't give them all the, all the views. And then I will teleport you over to Grizzly because Andrea is going to be on Grizzly at 3 p.m., which is about 10 minutes from now. So we can do that. And then you guys won't miss a thing. But I have to show you this because it made me so sick to think that this is who they're having on Court TV. And they're wondering why they are losing subscribers left and right, that nobody believes anything that Court TV has to say anymore. I mean, it's crazy. Now I got to find it in my extensive search history. Hold on. Oh, and poor Matt from Court TV had to be the guy to get this expert on that they assigned him. MLC says, but guys, what do you mean? Worried about what exactly? Physical harm, legally, what? I don't know what we're talking about. Asatru more than Odinism. Yeah, it's a subculture, right? I mean, it's an offshoot. It's a white supremacist offshoot. Thank you, Nerdy Dog Mom. Yeah, I went off on some jerk in the chat who was telling me that I need plastic surgery under my eyes. Not to be rude or anything, but when anybody starts off a compliment like that, it's crazy. They're losing subscribers. Yeah, nobody's watching it anymore. J-Pop says Richard Allen is guilty, and there is some stuff going on in that county. Thank you for not cursing. Both can be true. Both can be true. That is true. I haven't seen anything so far that firmly proves to me with beyond a reasonable doubt that he's the guy. But I respect your opinion, and thank you for stating it. Thank you for stating it respectfully. I appreciate you. Norma Hope. So scary. What has happened to our justice system? Totally shocked and disgusted. I hope the jury can read behind the lines in this farce of a trial. Tracy says, it was actually nice that Vinny had expressed his concern on the lack of evidence against Richard Allen. Has he? Because I haven't watched him lately. Olivia said, that guy spent more time on his hatred for Karen Reed than offering any legal insight. And you know what, Olivia, when I looked him up, he's a personal injury lawyer. So here's my question for that guy. You're a personal injury lawyer. I'm a personal injury lawyer for 30 years. In addition to handling the sex abuse cases and all that other stuff, I've handled hundreds, if not thousands, of car accident and dog bite cases, by the way. So, Mr. Jafar, when's the last time you had a pedestrian knockdown case where there were no injuries except for some dog bites to the arm below the neck? When's the last time you had a case like that? Because he's just lost all credibility, in my opinion, as a personal injury lawyer. So, yeah, there's that. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, good. You missed it. Yes, I'm gonna redirect you as soon as I hit end. It's gonna redirect you over there. So hold on. Let's watch this video together because you're gonna need mental support while you watch this. I did a stream on the civil case the other day, and so did they. Listen to this.
Breaking news, this coming out of the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth. Plymouth Superior Court judge has just made a major ruling in the civil case against Karen Reed. The judge, William White Jr., has ruled that Reed will not be deposed in the wrongful death lawsuit against her until after her second criminal trial wraps up. That is scheduled to take place at the end of January. You recall that this is a civil lawsuit brought on by the family of the Boston police officer, her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who she's accused of killing that snowy night. And this wrongful death lawsuit also includes the bars and the bar owners in which they visited before his death that night. Again, the judge ruling that she will not be deposed before her second criminal trial. Remember that first trial that spanned about 3 months long there in the state of Massachusetts in the small town of Canton that really divided that community, ended in a mistrial. Let's bring in our guest to discuss this. We have Michael Jaffer, national criminal attorney. No surprise,
National criminal attorney, except for somebody sent me his Twitter profile, which says that he's a personal injury attorney. So listen to what this guy has to say. Buckle up, buttercups.
Michael, that the judge made a ruling that the civil trial can't take place until after the criminal is wrapped up.
I agree with the judge's decision. Look, I hate Karen Reed. I detest this woman. I want to see her convicted.
I hate Karen Reed. I detest this woman. I want to see her convicted.
In her next criminal case, but I want to see it done the right way, right? Had the judge not done this, obviously it would have divided the community further because she's created this whole entire conspiracy hoax. She's made the whole thing up. And so because of that, there's division in that community that she sowed herself intentionally to deflect attention from herself. With that being said, the judge could have forced her to go forward with the deposition and she would have just invoked her Fifth Amendment privileges, and that would have created a negative inference in the civil case. It could not create a negative inference in the criminal case that's going to come, but it would have created a negative inference in the civil case. But then it would have just played into her whole entire narrative of, look, the whole system is against me and I'm a heroine who's fighting to protect the system. I think the judge made the right decision. I'm proud of the decision. I think the decision was right. I don't think she should have been.
You're proud of the decision?
Forced to move forward with the deposition in her civil case. It could wait. Her criminal case is right around the corner. This could wait. Civil cases last years, by the way. They're not like criminal. They last years. And so this is not, it would have been way too fast to force her to be deposed before the criminal case. And obviously the attorneys for the family wanted it done this way. They also made the right move. It was a chess move to force her to toe the line and file this motion. And so everything happened the way it should happen. The system worked for now, and I'm proud of the decision that the judge did.
Look at Matt.
Yeah, and the threshold to remind.
Matt was every day at the Karen Reed trial, every day. He's like, Booker, are you kidding me? This is who you book on my piece? Are you kidding me?
And our viewers is much less in a civil case than it is a criminal case. But again, that deposition could have been used against her in court because she would have been under oath. It's almost making her testify before the next jury gets the case. But you know what could be used in court, what wasn't used in the first trial, but is still on the table, is all of the interviews that she's been doing on national news.
Yeah. By the way, I hate this woman, and I hope she puts her foot in her mouth. I hope.
By the way, I hate this woman again.
that she has enough, basically, metaphorical rope to basically hang herself with.
Hope she has enough metaphorical rope to basically hang herself, which isn't it ironic, don't you think, that in Proctor's text messages, he said, I wish she would just kill herself. And now he's talking about he hopes she hangs herself with metaphorical rope. Wow. Wow, wow.
With her interviews, she's a narcissist. Again, these are my opinions, obviously, not that of anybody else.
She's a narcissist.
Opinion is she's a narcissist, and she's worried about one person and one person only, Karen Reed. I'm not saying she's that thing because of the fact that she defended herself and she pled not guilty and she vigorously defended herself. Everybody has a right to do that. That's not at all the problem.
Sir.
The problem is when you defend yourself, but then you lie and you blame an entire community and a police department that has been riddled with its own controversy to do that in order to deflect attention from yourself so that you don't get pulled over that night for a drunk driving and go to jail for a felony for driving. And even if you accidentally hit John O'Keefe, but you were so drunk that it becomes a felony that has mandatory prison sentences. When you do that, when you go back to his house, when you put up a story that you are being framed and all of it has been debunked, when you do that, I believe that you're a...
It's been debunked by who, counselor? By the FBI hired biomechanical engineers who say that John O'Keefe was not hit by a car? Dude, if you're a personal injury lawyer, this is your wheelhouse. You must hire accident reconstruction experts all the time. And you're telling the public, the worldwide viewing public, that you believe Trooper Paul? I hate to tell you, but I don't think this is going to be so good for business, dude.
Narcissist, and that's why the interviews don't shock me. I'm sure she's going to have a book deal. She's going to have a book deal if she gets acquitted in the second case. She's going to spend the rest of her life smugly claiming that she stood up to the system and won, right?
Really? Is
so
that
I
what she's
really
gonna do?
hope she gets convicted in this next criminal case. I'm proud of the civil suit. I think the civil suit is going to, even if she gets acquitted in the second case, that civil case, she's going to get found responsible for his murder in the civil case. Again, a prediction by me, and she's going to spend the rest of her life paying tens of millions of dollars of getting her bank account seized or real estate seized. I think this woman's got some problems.
Is that the kind of lawyer that you are? You go after people's bank accounts and people's bank accounts and their homes? I mean, who is this guy? Does anybody know? I forget how to spell his name because it's a weird spelling. Seems like Michael. It's like Jafar, but it's like somebody called him out on Twitter and somebody sent me the thing. And I can't remember how to spell his name. If anybody knows. They don't put his name up, obviously, but look at Matt.
For the rest of her life that she created with her own narcissism.
Narcissism.
All right, well, that's your opinion and your legal analysis, but that's why this case has divided so many, right? Because there was troubling things done in that investigation, and quite frankly, her theories haven't been debunked because she wasn't acquitted, but she also wasn't found guilty. She's going to face a second trial.
Thanks, Matt.
And the first trial ended in a mistrial because they couldn't decide what really happened, right? But the news here today out of Massachusetts is with the civil case.
And then they got rid of that guy like right away. And they were like, yeah, no, see ya. And they made Matt the fall guy. Hey, how can you argue against Trooper Paul, the accident site whisperer? That's a great point. That's a great point. Jafar? Yeah. You can find it on Court TV's YouTube. I wrote a comment and then I deleted it. I was like, no, I can't. I can't. There's a lot of trolls on there. So just beware. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for the 10. How can you argue against Trooper Paul, the accident site whisperer? Great point. Did this guy ever hear Sergeant Lang say he spit on people? Thank you, Samantha, for your super sticker. Samantha, who is this clown? Thank you again, Sarah Be Creative. Thank you so much for coming late. No worries. We're welcome. We welcome you no matter when you appear. Okay, you guys, here's the thing. I'm going to, when I hit end on this, I am going to teleport you over to see Andrea Burkhart on Grizzly True Crime. I'm going to go on the glare tonight at 6 p.m. I don't even think it's up yet, so I can't teleport you there. But if you want to see me again today, I'll be on the glare at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for your support. Please smash the like button on your way out because it is the nice thing to do. Share the stream out if you feel so inclined and you think that there are people out there who need to know about this. And I'm going to continue to keep you posted, of course. So thanks, Mods, for trying to keep it classy today. I know it's probably hard. Yeah, I think that's his name, Big Mike or Big Case Mike something on Twitter, right? JAFAR. I'm not sure. All right. Thanks, you guys. Thanks to the members, viewers, replay viewers, do all those YouTube-ish type things that YouTube likes, hit like, share, all those nice things. Check my phone, Scott. Okay. I don't know, Scott. I don't see anything from you. Oh, now I do. Oh, his name is 800 Big Mike. That's big injury count on Big Case Mike. I think that's his Twitter, right? Big Case Mike, maybe? I don't know. Wonder how many. Grizzly in 15 minutes. I thought it was at 3 o'clock. I wonder how many people there are. How many cases he's had where there's no injuries below the neck in a motor vehicle versus pedestrian case, aside from some what look like dog bites on an arm. That would be an interesting question for him. Big Mike got a little D. You guys are awesome. All right, you guys, I will see you real soon. 6 o'clock at the earliest if you choose to join me over on the glare. I don't know what we're going to be talking about, but it's always fun. Viewer discretion is always advised because he doesn't. I don't use the language that he likes to use. So if you're cool and you're into that, why? What do you mean tonight? It says it's at 3 p.m. Is there something? It says it's happening at 3 p.m., but it didn't start yet. Unless they changed the time. Did they change the time? It says live in 000. I don't know. Did you guys say it was let me just scroll back and see if it was was the time changed? 3:15. All right, I'm going to send you guys over there. Tell them Cupcake Raid, tell them I said hello, and we appreciate all the hard work that they're doing. All right, be cool, be kind, be classy. It's not hard, I promise you. So not hard. Peace. See you at 6.